Well, good evening, everyone. Happy spring. Welcome to the March 21st, 2022 Select Board meeting. We continue to meet virtually, only in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's see, we have a call to order at exactly 7 o'clock. Our standing announcement, meeting of the Berlin Select Board are generally recorded for transmission on both the Berlin Cable Television Access Channel and YouTube. Your voice, image, and or phone number may be recorded. All right, first up is the approval of last week's minutes.
Motion to approve.
I will second.
All right, motion and a second. Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right, item 1 done. Correspondence. T2, has there any any correspondence that's come in?
That came in that I thought would be of interest would be, we did receive the check from River Bridge. So the check did come in and it has been deposited, so.
And can I stop you for a minute? Look who's here. It's TA1.
You have to unmute, lady. Unmute.
No, she needs to unmute herself. She's forgotten already.
Yeah, she has.
See, I thought that's how we're gonna like keep her involvement down and keep her so
What, that
calm.
we'll just keep muting her?
Permanently on mute. She can watch what we're doing, but
All right, they're
Yeah,
permanently
fine.
on mute. Nice and nice new glasses, Margaret. All right, June, so sorry to interrupt. Anything
Oh,
else?
that's fine. Nope, that's all I have.
All right. General public comment. Have two folks in the audience. Mr. Blair, do you have any questions? If not, then we will bring Fred up to the big table and have him do his report, and then we'll scoot up Ken and we'll get a moving and a shaking. All right, no questions from Mr. Blair. Here comes Fred.
Hello.
Hi, Fred.
Here he is.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna, I know we're short on time, so I'll just touch on the old business.
Fred, don't worry, we're 8 minutes too soon. I just like buzzed through everything, so we're good.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so for the old business last 2 months ago, we had to go around, open up the waterways because we were having a lot of the rain ice events. We were able to get 2 culverts assessed, one Lancaster Road, Randall Road, and also Pleasant Street. There were some repairs done to the dirt end of Larkin Road because of the plows tearing it up and just general potholes in the dirt. We were able to get some brush chipping done throughout town with some of the stuff that had fallen down in some of the wind events. We got a few signs replaced, minor equipment repairs. I didn't list them. Potholes were constantly filled. There was one cutting edge replaced on a snowplow because it literally wore out completely. So that got changed to what we use now, which is a segmented blade. It cleans the road a whole lot nicer and they wear a lot longer. But the one that we put on was a used one that one of the previous employers had and didn't like, so we're kind of like using that up now. The elevator was inspected at 23 Linda Street. It did pass. And we had just a couple dig safe markings that we did. So for the month of February, actually it would have been January, I think. There were 9 snow and ice events, which totaled 255 full-time man hours for the overtime account. And the part-timers put in 157 and a half hours for that month. For our new business, it was unfortunate. We had the driver training simulator set up to come here the first week of the month. It did arrive, but the day we were supposed to do it, there was a generator failure, so we couldn't do it. They did try to reschedule it for May, but we're actually hosting a beaver management class here that day, so we're not able to participate in that. So hopefully we will be able to get that back here. We actually only had one equipment failure, which was a hydraulic hose on the L70F loader. That was what happened was we had to run chains in one of the snowstorms, which broke a couple bolts that acted as a holder for the hydraulic hoses. And subsequently, we got the parts for it, we fixed it, and then the O-ring started leaking after it was repaired. So it was all taken apart again, the O-ring was replaced. We spent 5 days doing pothole repair. And they were constant days. They were getting a ton and a half at a time just to keep up with them. And in between the guys going out with the hot top box, we were also going out with the front end loader, excuse me, with just cold patching it, just trying to keep the big ones at bay. Some of them held till the next storm, and then the plow took them out. So yeah, like I said, the plow that went on truck number 24 got the U segmented plow, cutting edge. And we believe that we'll be able to get most of next season off that blade before we have to reblade that one again. We had a door closure on the back of the 1870 where they have the double doors. The one on the left-hand side was out of adjustment. So it was found to be unsecured several days in a row. So we went up and made a repair to that and got that working the way it should. There were other repairs that were done at the 1870 on the 23rd. We have a gentleman in town that takes it upon himself as part of the contract to go in and just like keep an eye on the furnace. And he had found that it was out on the 23rd. So he replaced the fuel pump and the nozzle. And then on the 24th, I went up to check on it and it was found to be not working again. So he was local, he was in Northborough. So he shot right over. It ended up being just the eye that senses whether or not there's a spark. So he changed that, got it refired, and it's been flawless since. So now that we're coming into the warmer months, hopefully we're not going to be relying on it. The brush chipper finally got some attention it needed. It got an oil change and new cutter knives put on because we had a tree company come in for 2 days and work on removing a few more of the hazard trees in town. The fire alarm system at the 1870 got its annual test and everything passed. There was one issue that kept coming up, but it was a supervisory and it kept clearing itself. So they weren't super concerned with it. But they are going to keep an eye on it through the monitoring system. And as Margaret knows, we did have a meeting with the engineers from VHB to discuss the 2 ongoing bridge projects. And since then, we've met another time. For the month of February, we had 10 snow and ice events, and that consumed 182.5 full-time hours, with the part-timers only coming in for 130 hours. This month, I did add in the impact of the budget, just so you guys are aware of like where our budget stands. So the highway expenses with all our equipment repairs for the month was $4,609. Which left us with the balance of $79,538. The snow and salt expense, we ended up ordering, I believe it was like 300 ton of salt totaling. So that came to like $15,285. And at the time, our balance was $14,004. Now I believe we're down to just around $3,000. If we do have another storm, we do have enough salt that we can mitigate that storm. But we're definitely going to be coming to for an override for it because we have to replenish what we took out for the season. But before we can do that, Dave Smith offered up, he milled up some boards for us because we have 2 beams down there that we have to replace before we can actually put any more wood on, any more weight bearing onto them. The public buildings was our biggest expense. That was $5,505. And that leaves our budget there at $46,951 for the season. So hopefully things will slow down with the repairs. And now that we're able to get out and start on the road, now it's just a fuel consumption thing. And that is all I have for our month.
So Fred, you know how COA would drop off sand? Can you just go drop off tar in everyone's driveway? So when we have a hole there, we can just go on and fill it for you?
Oh my God, I would love that. I will bring buckets. Anyone that wants to fill a hole, I will bring you
Oh,
buckets.
there'd be designs all over the road. There'd be heart symbols. People
Yeah,
would write
probably.
their name. Okay, I'd write my name, but you know, just saying, gotta help out highway.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Senior Fred? Sky, I see Scott's blurred hand.
Yep. Fred, how has increased gas prices affected the budget? Do you think that's going to be a problem for us?
For that month, we hadn't. For this month, it will. Because the last I saw, Berlin Gas is where we get the majority of it. They were at 519 last I saw. And then I do have over there on the other table, actually a breakdown as what it would cost. So it's over $250 to fill one of our CDL trucks because it's a 52-gallon tank. But after the last storm we had, it averaged like $170 because the pump shut off at 150. So we would have to rerun the card to top off the trucks. But yeah, so hopefully that will come down. I noticed the gas over in my neck of the woods has dropped a little bit, but it's only pennies that it's come down.
And there's no such thing at this point in the universe as sort of electric CDL trucks. I mean, I know Elon Musk does these dog and pony shows, but I don't think anything really exists at this point, right?
I haven't seen those, but I have seen, I believe the nitrogen. There is a gas out there that they've gone to.
Yep, hydrogen. There's some hydrogen vehicles out there.
What if Highway had a BJ's card? Would they be able to go up there and fill their tanks?
I don't know if they
They don't
carry
have-
diesel.
Yeah, they don't
carry
have diesel up there.
Ah, that's true.
But we could get gas for the lawnmowers up there.
That's
Well,
There you go.
I could work on getting you a card.
Yeah.
We work with the farmers and create our own biodiesel fuel.
Yeah, and actually, to talk on the credit part, our Lowe's card, we went to get some cleaning supplies for the 1870, and our Lowe's card was declined. And thanks to June and Amy, they researched it to find that someone had made charges in California. So they closed it, and that they're issuing new cards.
Good. I
It
had
just
that happen
would have
to
been
me.
nice to know that before they went up. You guys went up there
Yeah.
to use the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone likes to be rejected once in a while.
There you go.
Well,
June, can we look into renting goats and kind of like have them dispersed around the town? Wouldn't that be cheaper than gas? Just saying.
This might be a thought. It would be a
There is
lot
a-
more fun.
Wouldn't
is a
it be fun?
company.
We could each go down, we could move the goat like every hour. Yeah,
That-
There is a company out there that does do that.
yeah.
they do that. A lot of the golf courses will do that because the goats, I guess, will eat the poison ivy. So they do, they
Mhm.
line up the goats right around there and then they just clear the brush. Yeah.
Don't
want
they
me to
pull
do
up
it?
all the
Tar?
roots too?
So Fred's gonna drop off tar. We're gonna get goats. Berlin's really kind of turning into a fun town. I'm liking it.
That'll teach Margaret for leaving us alone.
I know, really? See, I told you, Margaret, I warned you
I
that we
love
burned the
this
town
talk.
down. We haven't burned it down. We're just getting goats.
You
That's
can
all.
start goat yoga.
Goat
There we go. That
yoga.
would be fun.
Oh, and then we'd all be healthy. This is getting better. All right.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It is.
It is a thing. All right. Anything else for Mr. Fred? All right. Well, fingers crossed, Fred, that there is no more of that bad word coming. So,
Yes, I hope not, because all the big trucks are already cleaned and ready to be put to bed.
okay. And thank you. I mean, it was, I'm sure with all the hours that you guys put in, it was not fun, but definitely appreciate everything that you've done to keep the roads in awesome condition. So I appreciate that.
It's always fun. That's why we do it.
Yeah, okay. I'll remind
that
you of that
thought,
next time I see you.
Fred.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right.
don't do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Fred. Stay
Bye.
safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. And thank you, Mary, for bringing up Chief Clack. So we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. There he is. Oh, he's still in the office. I see the red behind him. Evening,
Good evening,
Chief.
everybody. How are we
How
doing?
are you?
Nice to see everybody. I'm doing well, thank you. TA, it's good to see you.
All right, Chief, the floor is yours.
Okay, we'll start the monthly activity report for the month of February. It's a little bit slow. There's only 1.6 responses per day, a total of 47 in a short month. And EMS was a little busy last month. There was 32 EMS responses, 11 fire-related responses, 3 motor vehicle accidents, and a public assist. So kind of a slow month, but we had a lot of activity going on with vehicles in the building that we spent a lot of time with to do some fixing and things like that. So it's kind of like it is what it is. We don't have any control over when the phone rings or the bell rings. Something I want to share with you that's next on the list is we had 2 incidents in Highland Commons East where personnel were called to use their unique skills of I hope I'm saying it right. Is it bilingual? They can speak 2 and in 2 incidents they came in to calm patients so that the outcome of the incident was very positive. And so we've had some really good discussion in-house about that, but they came in, one of them heard it on the radio, wasn't even called. She came in, Jasmine, and it was Jasmine Murillo and Johnny Gallardo. And they used their special skills and really dampened down a situation that was simply because of the language not being able to communicate was going south quickly. I gave them a lot of credit, and it's like it's great to see that your personnel when they can step up and have some special skills that really work out like that. So I just want to kind of make you aware of that, and it's like they did really well. I was very proud of them, and they did a great job. You should have a copy of the fire prevention activity report from the fire marshal that was attached and forwarded on from Mary. There's some Ems Collections Group, the EMS billing for February. The billing was $31,596, and the credits that came in was $16,703.03. So that's down a little bit. And but I think that we had like one of those reporting glitches to Coastal where we did everything on our side, but things weren't getting shipped from the AmbiPro program automatically to the Coastal. So we were slow a couple of weeks behind on that, but we found out that it happened, got it corrected, and everything's back up to speed now. I think we went a week and a half, maybe 2, where it was a little slow in sending stuff, but it was identified. We worked with the resources to get it corrected, and we're back up to speed. So that's where we are. One of the grants that we currently got working, and I know that you've seen some paperwork on the communications upgrades, is phase 1 of that program went through for portable radios and applied for through the AFG, which is the FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant process, which we got the large diameter hose and associated equipment on the last one. And this would outfit us with portable radios. We're kind of in the disadvantageous spot of being where we need to be able to communicate immediately a lot on 3 radio bands. We go anywhere with Marlboro, they're 800. We go anywhere with Northborough, they're, let me think about it, they're VHF and we're UHF. So it's like just the way that these people elected to do radios. Some of them had them for years, like Berlin and Northborough. So right now, the only way that we can talk with Marlboro is to carry a separate portable or radio. And so sometimes when I deal with all the 3 agencies together, I have 3 radios in my pocket. So it's like, so I can talk to everybody. So that's a program that if we got that, it would give everyone, all the riding seats in the department, one of the radios that they could just change the channel and have the right frequency, all in one radio. Interoperability is the word they use at the federal level. And I study a lot of firefighter fatality reports, and a lot of the ones that are done on the fire ground fatalities when they're investigated is communications is always one of the top 5 bullets, that lack of interoperability or lack of ability to have a radio, whatever. So we try to stay ahead of those things. What else I got? Any questions so far?
I have two,
Okay.
but I'll wait. They're not related.
Okay, you always wait till, I look forward to yours. So it's like, and the other thing I wanted to ask is we've been 2.5 years now with our per diem program, which is very, very successful. And I was wondering, what is the process in the town of Berlin to kind of form a committee to look at the fire department, public safety space and see what it would take to like get some ideas to renovate. They have a nice open space that's was never finished up overhead to use for the red team. But I'm not sure what the process is to identify like a, I don't know if you'd call it a billing committee here. I know where I came from, it would be like you'd set up a billing committee. I don't know how you would staff that, who you would put on it. Do people apply? Do you put out applications? I don't know. So I'm just kind of like picking your brains a little bit to see how you want to go. And I'm sure I haven't had time to spend with the DA, so I'm sure she's got a plan already brewing there, I can tell. So it's like,
Well, Chief, actually, oh, I'm sorry. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
may I speak?
Margaret, you
have to-
have
I can only speak until
ongoing
long, you know.
permission to interrupt whenever you want.
All right.
Off you go.
All right, so Chief, actually, the board is reviewing the ARPA funding priority projects. And one of those identified by the board was a facilities assessment. So this would be the start of that discussion. I've also talked with the capital planning committee and the board. I think I mentioned it to FinCom too, that we were looking to do something informally, just do a buildings tour to look at condition and things like that. That would be done outside, having an expert come in and actually look at, really real official space capacity and
Yep.
building needs and things like that. So there's a couple of paths there.
okay.
Scott, did you have your hand up?
Well, I have a memory of when on FinCom and we were talking about going to full-time fire or having something there staffed, using the upstairs of town offices for them. And I thought something was even sketched out. Now, even if my memory is correct, and something was sketched out 8 years ago, it might not be fully relevant, but it was this is how the space could be used, and some weird ballpark estimates that would be dated, but could be a nice sort of starting point for conversation about how to best use that space.
Yeah, I remember Janet Campbell, I think. Might have been like my first year on the board when Chief Z had brought this up. I thought that she stood up. So Scott, I wonder if you and I are sharing the same memory. She stood up. I thought planning had designs for that. But again, that's what, 4 years old, 5? So yeah, so I'm wondering if maybe that's a place to start.
Or
Ask
two, if they
planning.
were talking about having the alphabet, if that would be something that they would
Yeah.
actually be able to work
Yeah.
on.
It's a very good way to do it. Good
Yeah.
point, June. Yeah,
So-
I actually had some discussion with some of the people that were on the original committee, and they were aware of the space and it's written into the plans, but no, they could not remember any plans being made to say, do it like this. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like.
No,
seems like
I don't think it ever got that far. I think it was at best a sketch of here are ways that space could be used.
Yep.
And pointing out that the space was, I mean, it's not even finished space at this point. And so it was designed to be quite flexible. So when we got to the point of needing it, something could happen there.
No, I agree 100% with what you just said. That's looking at it, and I went up there, Chief Galvin brought me up there one of my first days here, and it shows a lot of promise.
Any other questions for Chief?
So Chief, do you have people, I assume you have people then who can speak different languages in order to, okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of a surprise because, I spend a lot of time, an important part of a firehouse is 12 noon. And I've spent a lot of time with these people or at training or at incidents, and I've never seen that side, but it was always obviously there. And they had a chance to share it, and they shared it, and it was like very positive. So it's like, I'm like, well done, well done.
Yeah, very, very well,
Yeah.
well done. And
Yeah.
so I guess we don't need to share an English with a English as a second language teacher with the school.
No, no.
That's good.
There you go. I hear that from my wife. I know, yeah, my wife talks about that. Yeah, fourth grade, yep.
All right, anything else for Chief before I ask him my two? They're not like horrible questions, but. All right, so Chief, now that the mandate is lifted and for now, knock wood, as long as everything goes okay, we can walk around maskless. Any plans in play for a townwide CPR and or first aid training?
We've had discussion on it, but our primary instructor, we have to kind of like recruit someone to be the primary ball carrier for that. Has recently left, who was carrying the ball and had set those up, did the in-house CPR training. So we kind of like, we have to kind of reset that channel, so to speak, and then restart that. Yep. That's a huge thing that is near and dear to me. And it's like, we just got to get the people to like carry the ball, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right, because I just know that that's probably for a couple of years, we were chatting about it, and I know that you said because, we were doing this, you couldn't, got it. So no, just wanted to see where that was.
No, that lamp is lit, so we can run with that
Good.
ball when we get it going. So it's like, nope, I'm with you 100%. And we just gotta
Good,
like kind of restructure internally here now and give it a kick and go.
Okay. And is cross-training still ongoing for all the inspections that need to be done through the town, so you can kind of divide and conquer for whatever needs to be done?
Yes, the career staff on duty go out quite often with the fire marshal to get that experience. And there's also been some training on taking some classes. The academy's starting to blossom back out and open up a lot of their classes that will be available now. You can go in there and do the training. And so we look forward to being able to reassign some of our personnel to go for that training and get that experience and then build on it. We got to get some that fire prevention level 1 at a minimum to start. So that's where the discussions that we've had internally have gone. So it's like, we got to like be on top of that. It's not, it's being done very well now, but we need to build out experience when it changes.
Perfect. Awesome.
Good, Chief, the call volume seems down, which is good because less crises are good. What are the type of things you're doing to sort of keep people both sharp and like backlog things you're able to get to while calls are down? Because obviously you can't assume they're going to stay down forever.
Well, I think it was really weird that I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is that we had a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, we had issues with vehicles in-house that we could fix in-house, but took time over the past month. And we kind of caught up to that. We're making the transition to get the brush equipment up and running. So we're ready for that now. The snow cover is gone. I think they're working like a 4-alarm brush fire now up at Devon's on the range. So it's like, it's that time of the year, got to be ready to go. So we're not kind of caught behind the 8 ball with that. So every season brings a new challenge, and you just got to prepare for it. Put the other stuff away, like all the ice rescue stuff that we had out is going away for storage until next year. And we prepare the brush fire stuff now. And the burning permits are starting to get 5, 6, 8 a day now. The weather's good for that. People are calling in. So it's like, and they show me how to track that on the system. And it's just a different season, just brings a different challenge a little bit, and just roll the punches, get it done.
And then last year, didn't we have some issues getting agricultural burn pits permits out in time? Are we having such an issue again this year, or that all taken care of?
I don't know about getting them out. There was some questions on the system that I am not familiar with. I don't have any experience with the system at all. So I have to go to somebody to explain this to me or explain that to me. And it's a district system that the town of Berlin participates in. And it's like, this year we tried to expedite getting them, especially the agricultural ones, because you're not like okaying it, but you got to sign off on it so that the system will allow an agricultural burn. You know what I mean? And it's like the people still got to have their water together. There's only brush a certain size they can burn, but it's like, but they just have a little bit more hours in it. But it also still falls under the DEP air quality control type stuff. If it's not a really good day to burn, where the smoke would be hazardous, then they don't even agricultural ones go. So it's like, yep, I'm learning that. I have to be honest, I never got involved with agricultural where I came from. So it's like, this is all a new boat to me. And it's like, I'm learning on a daily basis, and I've learned a lot just from the people who are calling in and, you know what I mean, and sharing their experience with it. So I kind of look forward to that and have it, and get them going. I said, yep, we got to get our end done, and you're going to be checked off. And I think one of the persons took the check off to mean like, well, we allow it or don't allow it, but it's more of like just a, yep, it's an agricultural burn and they're good to go. It's like, you give them the kind of like, we're not saying yes or no to an agricultural burn. We're just, it meets the requirements and we're just kind of checking the box. So it's like, that's kind of like where we are with that. And it's like, we try to, I think last week I did started two, and then had to have the guys help me where we got, even the residential ones, some people don't have access to the computer or good connection or whatever. So they call in and we help them get active for the day and establish a permit. Then they have to just call in on whatever day they want it and activate it. So it's like, but that's part of being here. You know what I mean? You just work through it and get it done. And yeah.
But as your belief right now is there's no agricultural permits that are sort of stuck with your office, at least. They could be stuck in other parts of the process, or it could be a bad day, but no one's waiting on you. I don't know of any myself. I know that at the Agriculture Commission, it was a longer talk on some struggles with burn permits. I think they also agreed that things looked better. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have brought up the meeting if I knew things were horrible. I would have reached out to you to find out where things are at. But
no, as far as I know, and the ones that have called and asked questions, we kind of like, we review that on a case-by-case basis. Yep, it's agricultural. Check the box, good to go.
Okay.
And they activate it. Yep. So if someone out there, if it's listening to this, is having an issue, have them call tomorrow morning. We'll get it straightened out, whatever we need to do.
Awesome. All righty. Chief, I thank you. If there's any last minute questions, want to get Molly up for her 7:30 appointment. All right.
Thank you. Thank you,
Chief, stay
everybody.
safe out there.
Yep.
Thank you, Chief.
Take care.
Bye.
Nice
All
seeing
right.
you, Chief.
Same.
All right. Molly Reed, come on down. You're the next contestant at the select board meeting. Margaret, have you missed this?
Honestly, yes.
All
Ask me again at the end, but yes.
right. All right, so Molly is here tonight to talk to us about a request for council appointment. So Molly, when you're ready. There she is.
Hello. I
Hey,
thought I
Molly,
was
how are
only
you?
7:50.
We jiggled. We had a lot to go, so we're condensing everybody tonight.
Lucky thing I came on early.
Yeah, we would have skipped it. We would have kept an eye on it for you and then just brought you in when you got here. No worries. All right. Floor is yours.
So we have a solar hearing, pallet tax board hearing coming up on the solar property on Randall Road. And you all got the information on Matt. He has been doing this for quite a number of other cities and towns, and he's kind of specializes in it. And I think that would be the best course for the board to go, for the town to go, sorry.
Chris, Scott, any questions? Margaret?
Who was this again?
His name is Matt Thomas.
Okay.
He's and if I may, he's an attorney that does specialize in solar projects, in particular appellate tax board matters. And I have spoken with a couple of people for references for him, and he does come with with high accolades. His rate is actually a little lower than town council's rate. So if he is able to get us what we've been looking for 2 years from this particular solar developer, then I think it would be money well spent. I mean, we obviously want to resolve this at the ATB in the town's favor.
Absolutely.
And this is where we've been looking for a pilot agreement for several years and not letting them connect to
Absolutely.
the grid until we have an agreement on taxes. They believe that they don't have to, they have a different opinion on the matter.
That's right.
The-
Statute
they-
changed last year to reclassify what is taxable and what's tax exempt. They absolutely fall in the taxable class. So I'm sorry, that's my opinion. So we will see what the ATV says.
If we win this, are we able to get reimbursement for our legal fees, or is this one of those, our legal fees are just sunk no matter what the outcome is?
I don't believe we'd be able to negotiate reimbursement for the legal fees before the ATB, but we can certainly build a pilot in order to make it financially positive for the town.
Well, I'm just glad to hear that it's not the fellow that I had called and asked questions about a few years ago from KP. That's why I was asking who it was.
He's on his own. He used to be a town council for, I think it was Taunton, or a big well, I can't remember which town it was, but he's worked with a lot of towns to do pilots. He actually got a home rule petition for pilots for Mattapoisett. So he's very well versed in it. And he has worked with Beth Greenblatt, who is our valuation person who is helping us out. So I think it's a good thing for all.
Yeah, I support Molly's request, and I would recommend that the select board appoint Attorney Matt Thomas as legal counsel for this particular ATB matter with this solar developer.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Molly, appreciate your diligence. Margaret, yours as well. Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
There you go, Molly. Keep
Thank
us in
you.
touch. Let us
Margaret,
know if
you
you
look
need
good.
any help. Cool. Thank you, Miss Molly. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Molly.
All right. Miss June, back to you for the town administrator report.
No to add.
Nothing?
The only other thing that I did think of while we were doing other things was that I also wanted to let you know that we also received Highland Common check, mitigation check. So that did come in today also. That's it.
All right.
May I tag team and just give a couple more things? We've submitted for a $75,000 reimbursement on the housing choice grant that was awarded to the parking lot. So it's estimated that we'll receive the $75,000 within 45 days, in which case it's going to roll over to free cash next year. And also, Molly was just talking about Beth Greenblatt. She's still working on our Meta grant stuff. And she is looking, in the town's interest, she's looking at a solar power purchase agreement, or the possibility of that. So we wouldn't have to own, operate, maintain our own assets, our own solar assets. So I have invited her to an upcoming select board meeting when she has information. So I'll keep you posted on that. And
Yeah,
I'm
Margaret, just
also
let us know.
waiting.
We'll just drop it on the agenda.
Okay. I've also prepared an RFQ, and I'm waiting for Brittany to get back to me on it for the HD meeting room hookups. And I've also reached out to CM Geeks about looking at other possible ways that we could live stream meetings without having to go through the entire wiring project first.
Okay. Yeah, because Molly, Molly is on for next week, 28th. Not
Brittany.
Molly. Brittany, thank you.
Brittany.
You would ended in a Y. Brittany's on for next Monday to talk about options. Okay. All right. Oops, that's Brittany. Anything else? T1 and 2? Okay. All right, nothing. With the board's permission, I see that Mr. Hanks is in the audience and a little bit farther down on our agenda. Oh, maybe not. Oh.
PA
Oh,
recommend.
recommendations. Yeah. Can we scoot that up so that if we have any questions for Mr. Hanks, he can do that? Awesome.
I'm fine.
Thank you. Chris, you all right with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. All right, so recommendations there, T1, T2? For the electrical?
I prepared one today and I apologize for the lateness of it, but everything I said in it just supports what Richard had already prepared last week. I do support Richard's recommendation that Dennis Montero be appointed as our permanent electrical inspector. As you know, he has filled in as our temporary electrical inspector for the past several months during this vacancy. And prior to that, he was Henry's alternate for years. June, I think June participated in this more than me, but June, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, we actually had 3 candidates. They were all very good candidates, but where Dennis has been there and he knows the system a little bit better, I think it was also a good choice.
He and Henry, I think, were very close running together when we chose Henry the last time. So, you know, I'd be very happy with Dennis.
And I also have to say, I was very happy to hear that he's actually learning the tablets too, the inspector's tablets. So he is working on technology. So that was a good thing too.
Good.
Scott, any questions for Mr. Hanks or
No,
Margaret slash June?
I thought the recommendations were well written and I am fine to support it.
All right. Can I get a motion?
Was that a motion, Scott?
Sure, that's a motion
All
to do the appointment.
Okay.
All right. I will second that motion.
All right, Margaret, June, appreciate it. Richard, obviously all your hard work that goes into this. Stone Eye,
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
boom chakalaka. All right.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Hanks. All right. Well, while we're at it, no, let's just keep going down the list. All right, so we are on to review and vote to include the annual town meeting warrant articles. So June, you're gonna drive this?
I can.
You want me to pull it up and share?
Oh, Richard
Yes.
has his hand up.
Oh, it's been, yep, Richard
Okay.
first.
Peg. Richard
Yes,
has
yes.
his hand up.
Oh, sorry, I switched screens. Yes, Mr. Hanks. Here he comes.
Yeah, unmute.
Yep.
There you go.
My name, were you looking for me a minute ago?
Oh, no, we were just appointing your electrical inspector.
Oh,
And
okay,
we were-
I just walked away for 1 minute. I came back, I heard my name, but so that's
Oh,
all.
no, we were thanking you for all your hard work to pull that together.
Oh, good. I'm glad you appointed him. I think he's gonna do an excellent job for us.
That's great.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, where'd you go? All right, so back to the warrant.
I think I have it here. I just don't know how to move it without a mouse.
Would you like me to pull it up?
I got it. I mean, either way. Is it the one that dated 3/18, Margaret?
It is, it says revised, and it says revised 3/21.
Yep.
Yep.
The
I have
only
it
thing
up in-
that's revised today is a summary under one of the articles.
All right, I got it. Hold please. Hold please, your call is important to me. Share. Dun, 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 dun. All righty, you ready?
Yep.
All right,
So-
so we want to scoot down to,
I think
what is it,
there's a new
19?
article. I thought a new Article 3 that we've not yet voted on.
Yep,
Right?
On page 3, right there.
that's
All
the new
right.
one.
Okay,
Okay, I guess that's me. Snow and ice deficit, we did find, as Freddie reported, that we were starting to get low. So this here is just a placeholder, so that way there, if there isn't a way for us to find other means to cover any deficits, that we can do so here using it from, say, offset, from free cash.
Yep.
Just so we don't have to raise it on the recap sheet.
Yep.
do you want to, do we want to vote for these one at a time? Or a blanket,
Yeah,
because I know I
let's-
have other questions.
Yeah,
on
let's
other
let's do them one at a time, only because there's a chunk before we get to the next one on the list, so.
Yeah.
So
All
I'm fine motioning that we include Article 3, snow and ice deficit, in the annual town meeting warrant.
Second,
All right, Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right, good to go. Scooting. Apologies for this. All right, ambulance replacements.
This article, as of the other day, did not have a number in it. I did receive an email today from Chief Clark. Let me see, I'll pull up the exact amount. Let's see, it says he needs to request an additional $3,495 from the EMS account, from ambulance receipts, for the ambulance radio communications. And I did confirm with him that that is the only expected cost overage on the ambulance replacement. So that number would be $3,495.
It's all coming out of ambulance receipts, so there's no money coming from free cash or anywhere else.
That's
So
correct.
what's so $3,000 to buy a new ambulance? I'm
No, it's a
confused.
3,000.
3,000 more.
There's
over the
no dollar-
300 Oh.
There's no dollar amount in this. So what is the
No.
new total?
The new total is 318,000, hold on, $318,495. And so this is just for the purpose of the additional $3,495 in additional funding.
Right, but we would never write an article of that closely timed, because a small ticket inflation or an add-on fee for something else would put us over. So this is gonna be like a $320,000 article, correct?
315,000 has already been approved. So if the board wants to
Oh.
round up, it would be for $5,000 for the additional funding.
So this is the inflation, correct?
I have not seen the document yet, but I did ask if it was due to cost escalation, and he said yes.
Yes, so I think $5,000 is a good number here.
June, are
And
you
I-
okay with that? Because, peg or minus, plus or 10, just saying.
I don't want to have a special town meeting in August because we need another $500 for the ambulance.
I know.
Yeah, the only thing that would concern me is if we were starting to get really close as far as what was left in the receipts reserved for appropriation account, but I think as of right now, we're okay.
All right,
Including the 100,000 that goes to the operating budget, correct, June?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, but we get a few thousand in that account every week, so I have faith that by town meeting we'll have that there, because the money he's asking for now is sitting there now, or close
Yes.
to it. Yes.
Yes.
So I would move that Article 8 be for $5,000 for the purpose of additional funding for ambulance 6A and related equipment.
Second,
all right. Margaret, thank you for getting that. Chief, thank you for getting that information. Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Okay, thank you. That wording in that article might be revised a little bit to
Yep.
make sure that we explain that $315,000 was already approved
Yeah.
last fall.
Right, because I'm still partially taking your word for it, but the wording still gets me
Yeah.
a little bit, but you get the intent where we want to go. Whoops.
Scott, and if we're short on money, this just means at Earth Day, you gotta go find some more cans for us.
Yep.
That's all. All right. Cans and goats, we are, come on, we figure out ways to do things. All right. So where do we live off? 19? We approved through 18, correct? No, we did 19, 20.
Yeah, we did through 18, but we've now added one, so that made the
Oh, you
one
have to
we
go back.
approved
So
19. Yes, yes.
Had you
So
done the
20
revolving
is where we're
funds?
going. You're right.
20 is where we're going? 20 is where we're going. All right.
From what I understand from June, the board just simply had questions as to whether or not the capital planning committee approved all of these, and they certainly did. They approved all of them. They're recommending all of these that are on the list.
Well, I'm not a big fan of one or more of them, but I'm fine voting to approve Article 20 as written for the town warrant.
I'll second that.
All right, as long as the money is there. Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right. Here's where the fun begins.
This is
Article
easy.
21. Oh,
You're
You think it's,
speaking
yeah,
of
wait till we're
operating.
going to these articles at town meeting. That gets
oh,
more.
I know. Get your coffee, get your snacks, boys and girls. We're going to be here for a while. Okay, so Article 21.
Yeah, this is your FY23 operating budget article. It's a standard warrant article
Yeah,
language, and you'll see all the meat of this in the motions and the finance
Yeah.
committee's recommended budget.
Okay.
Yep, so I'm fine with Article 21. We're still moving one by one, even though we're in groups together. So I
Yep.
move that Article 21 is fine.
Second,
Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right.
I just want to add with the budget, currently, right now, everything you voted on already, except for the school, Berlin Memorial and Tohoto. Those two are still open.
Okay. All right.
The
Okay,
next three
so-
articles have been submitted by the Community Preservation Act Committee. They have the sole authority under the Community Preservation Act to make recommendations to town meetings. So these are their articles, and the board, the board's authority obviously is to vote to include them in the warrant. But these are all numbers and summaries, et cetera, that have been presented by the Community Preservation Act Committee.
And so that's Articles 22, 23,
21,
and 24.
22, 23, I think.
22, 23, 24, because we added the snow and salt, so everything's got up
21,
one
22,
number.
23, 24.
All right, so 28 for the admin.
This is setting
fif-
their budget for next year. Yeah.
Yep,
56 for housing, 56 for historic, 56 for open space. Okay,
that's revenues for you.
Yep.
And then
All right.
23 is a chunk of money for $350,000 for the Conservation Commission, and 24 is $100,000 for historic.
Yes. I believe
I
that's
motion
correct.
that we include Articles 22, 23, and 24 from the CPA committee, so it as written.
Second,
I have questions. And maybe it's in here and I just didn't see them. Where's the one that conservation asked for 125? Is that in
That's
here?
down,
Did I?
that's down below. That's down below under special
Oh.
articles.
All right, then never mind. Okay, I'll hold my questions. All right, Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, Keith, aye.
Chris, get some water. Don't keel over. All right. All right, next up, Article 25.
This is an article that was requested to be put on by Molly and the assessors. And Dennis, as the treasurer, has reviewed it. This actually it's a benefit to individuals who are struggling to pay any tax deferral agreements they have with the tax collector. Currently, the rates are at 5% for the interest. This would lower the rate to 2%.
And I think it's appropriate to have on the town meeting warrant. So I move that we add it.
I'll second that.
All right, Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Chris, you know, at any time if you lose your voice, you just want to like bang on your desk as a motion, we'll take it. Just saying.
Let's do thumbs
All
up
right.
or thumbs down.
Yeah.
I'll bank twice for second.
All right, second too? Okay, all right, we got that. Next week, come prepared with a no and a yes sign, so you can just,
All right.
you're all set. All right. Article 26 regarding Police Bridge Academy training.
June, do you want to touch on this one as far as separating the funds from the operating budget?
I can touch on it very little, though. What we had decided to do after giving it some thought is instead of adding these expenses into the actual line items, and then them getting lost in the shuffle, we wanted to do it as a special article. So this way here, the funds were made available through the public safety funds. And also we didn't see a quick jump in the police expenses for this. So this way here, it would just be separated out.
And this one doesn't have an automatic sunshine date, so they can use this over a couple of years.
2 years. This is a 2-year article. Yep.
23 and 24.
And so as a team, we're gonna be I think I just want to make sure that then we should remove this from the list of ARPA funding requests if it's going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least lower prioritize it till after town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm fine with Article 26 as written, being included.
Second,
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
Chris, I was looking at you. I was waiting for you. There you go. Okay. Now
Here's
here
the
comes
article.
Peg's questions. All right, 27 and
28.
28.
28.
Okay.
So if we've already approved some money, correct? For this process, for this property?
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh.
And
I have it right here. Hold on.
And we would have in this meeting, earlier in the meeting, already approved, the CPA is already approving more money for this property. So this Article 27 is the third round of let's call it grant money. And then Article 28 is then the remaining money as a loan, if I understand it from a high level.
Article 27 is the remaining funding, would be the remaining funding. And then Article 28 is a requirement of the land grant that it authorizes the town to purchase the parcel. And the land grant requires that the town fully acquire the parcel before grants are reimbursed. My concern and my comments under Article 28 was that I do believe that if the town is to receive a land grant, I would like to see the money that came from free cash be restored to free cash first, money that came from CPA be restored to the CPA undesignated fund balance, or I don't think that's what's called, a CPA reserve.
Yeah.
So that any legitimate CPA purpose could use it.
Yeah.
I just want to be sure that the dollars come back to the taxpayers appropriately.
I would, although I'm sure 28 is worded the way it legally needs to be worded, I would try to make sure that, because even my reading of it and even your explanation, I'm still believing that this is $1.25 million in loan on top of all the money that we would have given, which is not the case, right?
Yep. Yes.
And I think that has to be in the summary, just because legally the motion has to probably be written a certain way.
Yes, we're going to have legal counsel review all of this. And just to your point before, Scott, your question, it was Article 8 of the November 8th town meeting that appropriated $490,000 from CPA for that.
Right.
Thing I would like to add in this is that we still have not heard from them as far as the operating costs that are going to be associated with this, as far as interest that's going to have to be paid out from somewhere, and also any closing costs or attorney's fees has not yet been taken into consideration. So those that dollar amounts may not be available as of with all of these amounts if open space is going to be using all of their funding for the final purchase of this. So that's my only concern.
That was my concern as well, that conservation was coming back and asking for and again, maybe I've missed it in here, was asking for $125,000 out of free cash, correct?
100,000
I thought
according
it
to
was
motion 27.
Yeah, I thought it was 125 myself
Can you
when
go
they were
up one
talking.
article, Peg?
Of course.
Right, that, it's this one that'll ask for the money, right?
27. Let's go to the start of 27.
Mhm.
There we
There it
go.
is.
So they want,
Typically, they don't have to ask for permission to appropriate money from the open space from the open space account. However, because I think this is combined for an acquisition of property, they're bundling it all
Yep.
in. Is that?
Yep.
I think that's what.
so
So-
again, to June's point, so they have 260 from conservation that they're kicking in, correct? And the town will vote 360 from CPA.
Nope.
Go
That's
ahead.
the total of the 260 there
Right.
from open space and the 100,000 from free cash. I thought at finance, they were talking about 125,000, I thought, but that was.
That's what I heard as well. So again, June, I second your comment is that there's no lawyer fees, there's no deed fees, there's no talk of
Interest. From that we have
Interest,
to pay
yeah.
Sudbury Valley.
Okay,
Yep,
so
there's-
Sudbury
there's-
Valley secured a $50,000 grant to pay for some of those ancillary fees. I can't detail those for you because I don't have that information at the moment, but I know that they received an additional grant for this.
So is there anything that we could put in here that says, this I'm pointing to the screen like you can all see it here.
do that all
That
the
this
time.
$100,000, it's only for the purchase of the land. If there are any fees above and beyond this, they're not coming back to the town to ask for this money. It's basically fundraising and Concom is gonna have to find the money somewhere, correct?
The only problem with that is for them to be able to purchase the land, all of those expenses have to be paid before the grant can be considered. And if we don't get the grant at all, we still have to pay out those money out. So if there's no dollar amount in the kitty at the time of them going and signing off on the contract at the bank, I can't allow the check to be cut. If
So
there
then it's
isn't
really
enough
not
money,
$100,000 then, it's more.
I can't
We don't
honestly
know.
answer that.
Yeah, we don't know.
So,
Peg, to your point, I think that we could ask town council, I'm sure there's a legal way to actually write that, to
Okay.
write that in or to note that on the.
right, and I think that's written in Article 27. So that they can spend the money on either purchase or ancillary costs. Article 28 just says we're agreeing to buy the land at $1.25 million, which is what the purchase agreement is. That, because there's no actual spending of money in Article 28.
Right, but again, the point that I'm getting to is that the 100,000 may not be all that they need. So what would happen,
Sure.
playing devil's advocate, everything passes and all of a sudden the bill is making it up $75,000. Sudbury Valley only can pay 50 of it. There's $25,000. Now all of a sudden,
But it doesn't
Concom's coming
happen.
back looking for money.
Right, then they have to come back looking for money. I mean, my math was quick, but my math showed that between the two articles here and the article is already passed, they're asking for $1.5 million. They already have more money than the purchase cost.
All right, so let's look at this.
Because
They
450
may
plus
have
350 plus 360.
I would hope they would have thought about this themselves.
Well,
Right, there-
Chris, I
and
can
none
tell
of
you
these people
that
are first
both
around.
capital planning and finance mentioned that to them in the two meetings that I watched about the additional costs. So I was
And they
kind of
said-
hoping that it would be here.
And they said,
Yep,
well, but that,
no, that's what they said. Yep.
If they didn't, that wasn't included in their amounts, but.
well, do we
Correct.
want to leave these for now and give them another week so they can answer?
They're not meeting this week. They met last week. So if anything, that means they won't take this up until looking at a calendar. What's today?
Well,
The
I mean,
6th?
what about just calling Carolyn to see whether they've included this in the numbers here?
I was gonna say, there should be some way for her to be able to do a quick calculation as far as the actual cost of the sale.
She should still
plus
be able to answer
interest
you.
on any
Right,
borrowed.
because if Carolyn tells us whether or not it's already included, we
Yeah.
can decide that we're gonna change the wording of their article to be 150,000 for
Nope.
free cash instead of 100,000 for free cash.
No.
And
You know
we're
what?
not allowed to, we're not allowed to do that?
Go up on a
Oh,
dollar
to
amount
raise,
printed.
to raise the number in
At,
the article?
at this point in time, we could raise the number. We won't
Uh-huh.
once it's warranted, but the select board can change the amounts if we wanted to.
Yes. Let me, yes, you could actually. Let me
So I
reach
think we're
out to,
pausing
me
on
reach-
27 and 28 as we get more information about whether or not they need more money for legal fees and closing costs.
Right.
I
So,
will reach out to Carolyn and I can't remember her name from the Sudbury Valley Trustees tomorrow. And I'll do a little table showing all the funds and I will ask them to confirm that this is the total amount needed for the acquisition and all ancillary costs.
That was an ask too at both capital planning and finance, that conservation include the cost is here. They got last year leaving. Conservation is kicking in. They're asking. So they were asked to break it down so that the town voters would know exactly what was being asked for. Margaret,
And
when
so-
you talk to them, can you also ask, because here's my concern, is that if they do get that property, Berlin is able to buy the property. The parking on Lyman is bad. People are parking now on both sides of the streets, which I'm sure is not a great safety thing. They're parking on the corner of Lyman down to Linden, which is probably not a great safety thing either. If there's anything that they're thinking about fixing basically the driveway where the old McGrail's house was, and then anything up on Linden where the guy took out the phone pole or the power pole a couple weeks ago.
Mm.
And then, of course, upkeep. I haven't seen anything on this is a gigantic chunk of land. I don't know how well the trails are taken care of, if they're putting anything in here to upkeep the trails. I'm sure they'll need signs for that. I don't see anything like that in here either.
Okay. All right. I will ask these questions tomorrow.
So I think, Margaret, what I'm looking for in Article 27 is what your concerns were, some writing in it that if any grants come and reimburses for any part of Article 27, that it goes back to the fund that the money came from, first to free cash. And you can word it, we could word the CPA article the same way earlier up, is that we get money back, goes back to the unrestricted fund first. And that Article 27 be able to include both either purchase and purchase related costs.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So we'll hold on 27, 28 until you get back to us.
And now there are many ones that have numbers on them. We'll make our conversation even more exciting.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. I appreciate you reaching out to them. Okay.
Sure.
Proposed ARPA funded projects, yes, Margaret.
I probably plugged this in right at the beginning. I just
Oh, okay.
don't see the need for this at this time.
I was about to say that. I don't think this is needed. The town meetings could be long enough as it is. Fooling us if we actually spend ARPA money on something the town really hates.
Yeah,
I think
I'll
we're
remove
pretty
this one.
What they were pretty much recommending is that in somewhere in the town report that you would just put down what you were spending ARPA funding on, just so that way there it was shared with the townspeople.
Yep.
Mhm.
I
But
think
it
that
didn't have to
definitely
be
should be
voted
done.
on.
Yep.
All right. Down to statute acceptance. Affordable Housing Trust. I saw some. Oh
There's an
no,
entire
was this
handout on
emails that
this.
were going around about this? Okay.
Yeah, there's an entire handout on this. It was submitted by the planning board. I know Eloise is here and I think she might be familiar with this proposal. Tim Wheeler has been very active with the Assabet Housing. Oh, Chris, you have too. The Assabet Housing Consortium. And nearly all towns that do have affordable housing funds do have a affordable housing trust fund. I don't know if Eloise cares to speak to this at all. But there is an entire handout that we would have available for this at town meeting.
So this would just be really an advantage to the town
I
in
agree.
many different ways, which I'm not,
We could, if an affordable housing unit went up for sale, you could actually subsidize some of the down payment costs or something to a qualified homeowner. The town could acquire housing using this. There are a number of things that we could do.
Well, and as you point out, that there are some affordable housing units who didn't sell in their 60 or 90-day period that ended up selling and not losing their affordable status, selling at market rate, and the difference coming back to the town. And I thought June, you pointed out that meant without this trust fund, that money just goes to the general fund as opposed to that money goes back to an affordable housing trust fund to build replacement units later on. I think I like this as an article.
And this is yeah, I do too. This is a good measure to take now that we have CPA, because those funds could also be transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, I believe.
Right.
so is that a motion to approve, Scott?
Yes, it was.
All right, then I'll second it.
All right, lots of discussion. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Stone eye?
Hawkins, aye. I'm opposing it. Ross texted me that you're gonna do something really quick. I'm still here listening.
Okay.
Eloise
Aye.
does have her hand up.
Yes, Miss Eloise.
I am looking at your article and it says Berlin Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. When I first looked at it, I thought it said Berlin Memorial. I guess I'm more tired than I thought.
Oh, nice
Nope,
to
it's a
hear your
good check,
voice,
though.
Eloise.
All right. All right, so. OPEB.
Rich, today I added a summary that was submitted by Richard Hanks, who's the chair of our IAC. I don't know if he's still, oh, he is still here. Good. Richard, if you'd like to speak to this one, feel free.
Are there any, before Richard or as Mr. Hanks comes up, are there any questions on this? I mean, to me, again, I can understand why we would want to do this, but to me, this is not complete, to present to the town.
I still think I have a good answer to my question of, so this is $150,000 a year just to fund the trust fund. This is not actually to pay any of the bills.
That is correct.
So it's going to cost the town more than $150,000 a year if we start going down this path.
Yes.
How much more is that?
That's going to depend on the number of retirees. Unfortunately, I don't have exact numbers yet. Now the IAC, I know, and June, you sit in on these meetings as well. I know that they discussed various funding sources that could, oh, there's Richard right now. Let Richard.
He's
Yes,
coming,
but-
he's coming
but-
from the
But
beach.
those funding sources could go to the bottom line of the budget. I mean, if we're spending money in places we shouldn't be spending money, we could cut those to the budget and use it to pay all the other things in the budget that we want to do as well.
The Finance
Yeah.
Committee 2 years ago adopted free cash guidelines, and as part of those free cash guidelines, one of the buckets in which free cash would be or could be allocated was to an OPEB trust fund,
Yeah.
where I wish I could tell you, I don't have the free cash guidelines in front of me, which, how much would be allocated from free cash each year to the OPEB trust fund. Richard might be able to, I think he had outlined a number of other potential funding sources, so I won't interrupt. I'll mute myself.
Again, it's potential funding sources are not a selling point for me at all, because any potential funding source, be it free cash or anything else, could go to anything else in the budget if we chose to do it. And so to me, the funding of it is not as much as the total cost. And I still don't get the total cost. So $150,000 a year into this fund, and we're still paying for health insurance. So at what point is this fund any value to us whatsoever? What does it offset something? Because it sounds to me like we're talking about $250,000 plus a year to do this, and that seems like a lot.
Valid question, valid point, Scott. The projection of 150,000 is what the Odyssey study said it would be based on, when I reviewed the study, they broke it down by age of the employees and the length of terms that the employees have and the anticipated retirement dates. So that's how the Odyssey study came about with the projected 4.5 million over 30 years. So within the next couple of years, if you did have it, you will have a couple of people retiring out, and then a few years after that, you're gonna have a couple of people retiring out. So that's how the 150 a year number came into the equation. Is that's what it breaks out to over a 30-year period as an average. So right out of the go, you're not going to have 150 your first year. So say 2 years from now you have 2 people retire out, then you're going to have 20,000 times 2 if they're on a family plan. If one's a single or single plan, is going to be less. And then so it's not 150 right out of the go. It's a cumulative over the course of the 30-year span is what the Odyssey advisory come up with.
So maybe I'm under a false impression. I thought we had to put $4 million into this fund before we could touch it. So for the next 30 years, we're going to be putting $150,000 a year into the fund and paying for all retiree health insurance on top of that. Is that not the case?
No, I don't believe that's the case. So further investigation of what I've been looking at, and I do apologize that I haven't gotten anything back to you sooner, is that again, the 150 is an average that it would take to meet the obligation of the next 30 years moving forward. So going back to the Odyssey study and looking at it again, they have a nice chart in there that shows that you have X amount of people that are a certain age and they've been with the town long enough that they would even qualify. So they anticipate that I think in the next couple of 3 years that you might have 2 people go out that are going to retire. And then 5 years, you're going to have maybe another one. And then 8 years, you're going to have 2 more and so on and so forth. So it's the 150 is just a cumulative to get you to the overall obligation at the end of your 30-year mark. So as we talked prior, again, I wasn't fully clear on that, but divulging deeper into it, that's what I'm coming up with.
So again, as an example, then, if we put 150,000 in a year, let's say this, we both funded the trust fund and decided we're going to start doing retiree health benefits of July 1, that if in fiscal year 23, 2 people went on retirement and got health insurance, then the bill for those 2 people would come out of the trust fund that we just put $150,000, or the OPED fund that we just put $150,000 in. So potentially at the end of fiscal year 23, there's only, let's say 80,000 left of that fund. And the next year we put in another 150,000. And we'll say 100,000 comes out, so that fund slowly builds in these early years where we potentially have fewer people, but that there's no more liability on the budget except for the money that goes into the OPED fund.
If I followed that, yes.
I'm just trying. I have to live in this fear that we pass this and we say this $150,000 a year, and suddenly it's $600,000 a year. It's 150 just for the fund, and then there's like 10 people who we suddenly have it. Because the other thing that I've pushed you on every time we've talked about it, it's not for this article, but that, like, what are the parameters that allow someone to retire? Because I have this fear again that this 19-year-old Paige will retire at the age of 39. We're going to be paying for health insurance for 50 years on them, you know, or that someone who's worked 30 years from another town works for us for 1 year at the age of 50, and we pay for them for 30 years, even though they only put 1 year into this town. And so I'd like to make sure that we put those parameters, which I'm told legally we could find parameters that are still rewarding long-term valued employees, but also not being a place where someone just comes and retires for 1 year, and we end up paying for 90% of the employees from the central Massachusetts because they all just come here for 1 year as their last year of employment, and we get stuck with their bill.
I think the board would actually do some of those parameters, Scott.
So Scott, that's excellent points and very valid. So myself personally, I most likely I would not benefit from this because I won't be able to accumulate enough years of service into Berlin. So a lot of places require you to have participated with your community for 10 years. All right. And then you can set age requirements. So that's all policy procedures that the select board would put into place as to to totally prevent what you're describing. And I can appreciate that. And again, most likely I won't be able to accumulate the years. I'm too old. So I see where you're coming from, and I guess I'm kind of like a neutral party on this, because again, I'm taking it on a different stance. Again, I'm not going to benefit from that. This is not going to apply to me. So again, that becomes your policy and procedures as to what level do you want it to be. Do you want to pay only 50-50 on the contribution? That can save you a lot of money too. Again, do you want it that you have to be employed for a minimum of 10 years? So that's going to close that loop. You can put an age limit there. You got to be 55, 59, 60, you know what I mean? So you can look at the different parameters of how you want to set it, and that those different parameters can reduce your obligation and also reduce your overall long-term cost. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
This article is just to create the fund, not as much to fund the fund, because there's no article in here to put money into it quite yet, correct?
I believe that's the case, and I believe that there would also have to be a future article in order to expend the fund. So this is, as far as I know, this would only move it forward to the point that the voters have a look and see if the town voters are even receptive to this. And then nothing in this says that it takes effect July 1st. Again, that's your policy and procedures are going to kick in, and you're going to establish when you want it to take effect, and what age limits you want the people to be able to retire out, and how many years of service that you want them to commit to your community prior to them retiring out.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Scott,
to me,
Scott's,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Pip. No,
No.
Scott's absolutely right. This only establishes the OPEB trust fund. This does not provide seed funding yet. There would have to be a separate article or an additional language in this article to be able to do that.
Right.
You know, no, I was gonna say, to me, this seems like this is part of a much bigger picture, and I don't think that we have that much bigger picture established. I mean, what about, you know, I know that you said the policies and procedures will need to be written. What about all the folks that volunteer for the town and now all of a sudden they're, you know, an elected official? Do their volunteer years count? I don't know.
That's up to us.
Well, I know that, but that's what I'm saying is that there's too many, it's up to us, it's up to us. We need to rewrite, we need to rewrite. I just don't think that this is a whole picture of what this possibly is.
See, I was beginning to think that I am leaning towards having this on the town warrant meeting agenda, even though I agree it's not fully baked yet, but it's an early step. I think it's an early chance for us to get a sense of where the voters are. It's an early chance to make this argument in front of the voters to get a chance of where they're at. So, because I don't want to spend, you know, 6 board meetings coming up with exact language of parameters to find that even if we came up with perfect parameters, that it's not going to fly at the town. And, you know, Rich and the Insurance Advisory Committee has, I think, done some great work moving me from, you know, again, no way ever am I ever going to support something like this, to I can see an environment where this is passable. I could see parameters that would make this sustainable. I get the argument that it helps for some long-term employee stuff. I would love to see a way to get a test motion in front of the voters to get a chance to see if it's worth continuing to do this work and make these arguments, to also see where some of their questions are either. Because I think it's one of these, we could put it in front of voters. It could potentially even fail, but we'll get some really great feedback. So we come together with the next piece that might be this and funding it, or this and some policies, that it's in a much better shape for that, as opposed to, again, us having to do a lot of work and discovering that no matter what we do, that it's, and I think there'll be a lot of other people who are in my sort of boat, that their gut is, no, this is expensive. But when you put together sort of the parameters and make sure that people aren't taking advantage of the town, and you talk about the stability of longer term employees, that it makes sense to more of them.
Can I ask?
Well, I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead, Chris.
I just had a basic question. Can the OPEB trust fund be used for anything else besides retiree insurance? No. Okay.
I just would like to add just one thing. I did talk with, and I believe I brought it to the board. I did talk with Janet Pierce from Central Mass Regional Planning. And there are a lot of other questions that we need to get answered about this.
Mhm.
And that does include all of the things, Scott, that you just talked about. And I think it would also address some of Peg's concerns. Because I think what we did is with the actuary, when they did the actual cost, it was based on what we offer right now for the town, which is the 75-25. So if you went to 50-50, that also would cut the costs a lot on what the actual costs would be for retirees insurance. The other big thing was whether or not elected officials would also be included in that. And then you could, like Richard said, put in other parameters, whether it be 10 years vested in the town, or you have to be on the health insurance at the time of your retirement to be actually qualified to do it. There was a couple of other questions that had come up when I was talking with Janet about it too, was that we would need to check into it to make sure that it wouldn't go retro to all the people who have ever worked from the town, which I don't believe is a fact, but she questioned that too.
No.
There was also something she questioned about for that people had to make $5,000 a year to qualify. So there was a lot of other questions, I think, that we still need to work on. And Janet did say that she would be willing to come out and speak with all of us if we wanted to do like a workshop to put some ideas on paper, just so we'd have a better idea as far as estimates go also.
Well, and I think there was the question a couple meetings ago about what about those towns that have entered into something like this and are having trouble coming up with, you know, the insert dollar amount per year here. What are they doing? You know, not
Okay.
that I ever want the two past years to ever return. Please no, never, ever, ever. But what happens if it does? And all of a sudden we don't have insert dollar amount here? Does that mean the next year we have to come up with twice? The next year we have to come up with 3 times?
Yeah, I would argue that most municipalities, and we're among a very small handful of
Mhm.
municipalities, you've heard this over and over, that don't have an OPEB trust fund. The vast majority of municipalities that have established the OPEB trust fund did it long after they started providing retiree health insurance. OPEB trust fund is part of a GASB accounting formula, which came about long after our retirement statutes were established, and long after many cities and towns established those. So once GASB was established, which is GASB, Government Accounting Standards Board, and it's a regulation. And once GASB came about, those towns all of a sudden needed to create the OPEB trust fund and actually account for their future post-employment retirement liability. So those are the towns that you're going to see in a huge hole. A town that can be proactive and plan for this, which Berlin is among a very small handful of towns that could take the time to plan for this. You're not going to see these huge OPEB liabilities that so many school districts and municipalities have.
Yeah, because a
That's
lot of
just
them,
my
I
2
believe
cents.
right now are paying whatever the yearly allotment is what they're paying on a lot of them now. There's very few. I think there's only a handful, if any at all, that actually are fully vested at this point in time. So.
Is there any more discussion on this or questions for Richard?
No, I'm trying to figure out the right parliamentary procedure to go in this. Peg, you're still not really in favor of putting this on the agenda. Chris, where are you at with that? I'm still leaning towards it, but I'm also fine. We don't have to close this today. Do we have another week we can contemplate some of these things?
Well, let me ask Margaret. I don't think creating this fund is going to benefit me. So is it all right if I vote on this?
Oh.
You need to make a phone call.
Oh, wow, what a good question. So, you know,
I
we're
go
getting
back to, I
the
think it
board's-
could benefit all of us just because.
No, we're getting
or not
back to the
because-
board's policies. Typically, a retiree health insurance policy would say that, you know, besides, you know, you have to have been on the town's health insurance for at least the prior year. You have to have been.
Yeah, but I mean,
employed-
just actually putting the article on the warrant.
No, that doesn't create anything because there is no There is no
I'm not
financial,
going to benefit by,
there's no financial component to this piece right now. It's when
Right.
it's funded.
right.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think it's going to benefit me then either, but I just wanted to make sure that I could vote on this.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't, because there is no financial component of this article. This is just looking to establish it.
Okay,
The board would later set policies, which you might have to think about recusing yourself for.
right.
Margaret,
Okay.
this article doesn't need to have an effective date, correct?
That's something that I would ask town council to look at.
Because that would be the only time where then we would have to start to fund it, I think. At least
I
in the
don't think
line
there's any
item budget.
obligation. Yeah, I don't think there's any obligation in the law that when you establish it, you must start funding it. And I don't think that there's I don't think you have to specify a start date, but that's something that we can ask town
You could
council.
argue, since we don't offer retiree health benefits, it is fully funded right now because there's no obligations, therefore nothing needs to be in it. Until we establish a policy that we're offering retiree health benefits.
Fully funded.
Well, I was gonna say, we'll pass it, we'll say we're fully funded with the ending of the entire state, and then we'll.
We're
not be
done.
fully
That's
funded, because we'll eventually go back and add the benefit. So I think it sounds like we should wait on this to get a little bit more clarification on it.
Well, I mean,
'Cause
look, I mean, we're not going to get, I don't think we're going to get any more clarification. What kind of clarification, Scott?
I'm ready to, I'm the one who's ready to add it, so.
You what?
I'm the one who's ready to add it.
Well, then make the motion. I'll second it.
Sure, I move that we add this article for the OPEB to the town warrant.
And I'll second it. I really think it's a good opportunity to get feedback, like you said.
All right, put it up for a vote. Stone, no.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All
And I
right,
assume that the Insurance Advisory Committee is the one who's going to make the motion and argue for it on the floor, correct?
Correct.
Richard, does the IIC have an upcoming meeting scheduled?
We don't at this point, but we can schedule one in. And any feedback from this board that they want us to work on, or what would they like to see from us would be greatly appreciated. And so if you want to send anything our way as to how we can clarify, define things down, look and research, that's what we're here for. But to everybody's point that, to get it before the voters, because they're going to have a lot of great questions as well, and a lot of great concerns, and then that's going to give us some feedback of what we need to work for if this does come to fruition, and how would the policy be set up, and what their expectations would be. So again, good takeaways, good questions, good points. And yeah, so again, if you can think of anything, whether it be individually that you want to send to me, and then I can schedule a meeting and we can start working on anything that you want us to try and clarify or try and get better details on, we would really greatly appreciate it.
Richard, if you could mark your calendar, I think our coffee talk is the 21st. I know it's coming up later on in the agenda where we're going to be, I'm going to assume, talking about all these warrant articles. So it's a good opportunity to get in front of folks who may attend our coffee talk. So
Okay.
that's a Thursday night. We usually start about 6:30. I don't know when this will come on the agenda. We'll see what else we have. But if you could block out that time, that would be awesomeness.
All right. So we'll do that.
Cool. All right. Thank
you
you.
all.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay. Next article up. There's only a few more. I'm trying to
Well-
skip through. I know that this is
Well-
Margaret's like fading time, so.
Right, so
wanna-
I think the article that, again, to see if the bill accept, state chapter 32, 4.2B, whatever, for permanent. I don't think this one is ready to vote on at the moment, and maybe not even make the town meeting, because we don't have the fiscal impact yet. Until we know the fiscal impact, I don't think it's ready to be put on the agenda.
No, and to me, this should be a collective bargaining unit item. I don't
Which
think that
one?
it should be here. This one, article, no
The
number,
one in orange.
right here, this
Okay.
one.
Yep.
I
So
think
is
they
there a
could be
motion
kept as a
to-
placeholder for a future town meeting once more financial information is received. Worcester Regional Retirement Board offered to do an actuarial study for us for a fee.
Yeah,
So-
no. Yeah, no.
So,
Okay.
yeah, Margaret, I think you're right. I think, you know,
Yeah.
we shouldn't be putting this on, I don't think, right now.
So let's pull that one then.
Yep. Do you need a motion, Margaret, to officially pull it or? No, okay, all right. General bylaws, personnel. I know that they've made some changes to it. I think it's still, well, all of this still needs to go to town council, correct? I know I gave my input when personnel asked for this months
Yeah.
ago. Scott, Chris, I don't know if you had as well. So I don't know if there's
No,
any
but
questions on
I
this.
read the most recent one and it looked like it was ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah,
just-
we worked a lot on that last March, and Personnel Committee is going to keep going on the personnel policies. And that's really the biggest change in this personnel bylaw amendment, is that
Right.
we've removed section 6 and then replace it with policies shall establish these things.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I thought it was a simpler than what's currently in the bylaws and allows flexibility in the town, which also then allows us flexibility in collective bargaining and other things. Honestly, I have to go back to the town and re-vote on things. So I am fine with the personnel policy bylaw to be on the warrant. Hopefully that town legal counsel and others will have something ready to go relatively soon that we can share because it is a longer document.
Okay.
So was that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion.
All right, second.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right. Earthwork Like Kind Soil bylaw. I've reached out now twice to Earthwork to talk to them about this. I know that this has been kicking around. Chris, this was kicking around when you and I were on the board a couple years ago
Yep.
prior to Scott. Really wasn't any movement on it back then. Don't know what Earthworks is doing on it now. I know that I'm not qualified to truly comment on it, so I'm going to lean on KP Law, who made the changes and combined them.
You
So-
know, is this the one, Margaret, that Amy Questle?
Yeah.
put-
Yes, it is.
Okay, then
Yes, it
just
is.
make sure or ask whether Amy can take another look at this.
Yes,
And-
absolutely. And my question for the board right now
Right.
is, does the board still want to be the Earthwork Permitting Authority? I mean, this is your
No.
chance to note or to name another local body that would actually take this over.
But
To
there's
me,
still
this
an
seems
advisory
either like
body that
a-
advises us, right?
There
was
is
that,
an
Scott?
advisory body.
That there's still in the bylaw, there's still an advisory that does some of the sort of techy detail-y stuff so that we are in a position to actually vote on Earthwork stuff.
I don't know that the advisory body is actually noted in the bylaw. I think that's a separate
Right.
appointment by the board.
So is
Right, but
this,
they're called out as a group in the bylaw. The bylaw says they exist. It says who is on it.
The Earthwork.
I'll pull it up again. I don't have it in front of me this second. I read them
Okay,
all
I'll
this
take-
weekend.
Okay. I
So
apologize.
does-
I have several detailing questions about the new bylaw.
so Margaret, is this more a planning board governing one or even ZBA
I
governing?
would say that it's probably more appropriate as a land use board bylaw, whether it's conservation or planning, or I don't know about zoning board of appeals. I mean, their sole responsibility is to enforce,
Okay.
and the zoning bylaw. So among other things, but I don't know, I just wanted to give the board food for thought on this, because this is your opportunity to make a change. Oh, Mary's raising her hand.
There is not, the Earthwork Advisory was created by the board to give it assistance. It's not mentioned in the bylaw.
Okay.
Think about it if you'd like to think about it, and we can look at it next week. And meanwhile, I'll have Amy take another look at the combined bylaw.
Yeah.
I
why
mean,
don't
because
we-
nothing's
why don't we
changed
do
since he
that?
fixed it.
I was gonna say that I have to go back and reread it because I was quite clear that there was a 5-person advisory committee that I read in the bylaw, but I will go back and read it all again. Maybe I
That
read it
just
totally
points
wrong.
to,
Section 6 says Earthwork Advisory Committee hereafter reserved as the committee shall be established of the following powers and duties. The committee shall consist of 5 members, the building inspector, a representative of
Wow.
conservation, the Conservation Board of Health, and 2 representatives appointed by the select board.
Is that the bylaw though?
No, that's not the bylaw. That is the definition of the advisory committee's charge up on their website. But that's
Okay,
not,
so I'm reading something that's called draft bylaw. So what is the document I'm reading at that's going to be the bylaw?
Oh, that is what Amy Questle, that's Amy Questle's combined bylaw.
Yeah.
So that must be the one that she put together. That's not in our existing bylaw, though.
correct.
Right, I'm not looking at our
Correct.
existing, I'm looking at what we're proposing. We have a warrant article about whether or not we're going to propose a new bylaw. So I've spent the weekend reading and trying to understand all the legal ins and outs of this little thing. I just want to make sure I've read the correct document, and I'm not totally like reading something that has no relevance to what we're
No.
talking about.
You're probably reading Amy Questle's combined bylaw. I thought you were referring to our
Right.
current bylaw.
Right, the new combined bylaw that we're talking about putting together
Mhm.
on
Yep.
whether or not we want the select board to be the body that votes on things. And I thought we might be in a better position to do it because we do have an advisory committee to advise us on these.
Either way, I mean, I could go either way. I don't mind as long as we do have someone who's advising us that knows what, about earthworks.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the energy level of the current committees, and it's, as Peg pointed out, that's not much. And so I think our ability to appoint a new committee might be limited. And so it could be planning board if they thought they would do it, but that lacking that, buck stops here.
Mm.
We have a motion on this?
I'd like to
Or do we
know more
wanna-
just about the one thing I had is that, of course, I love that the permits are only good for a year because I know that we've had this forever projects going on in the town that I'd love to have an end to. And it says renewal at a renewal cost, but I can't see whether or not we would have the ability, let's say we are the board, to say, gosh, we've renewed you 4 years in a row, we are done, we're not renewing you anymore. Do we still would have that ability just to say, look, you've had it long enough, we're done with the trucks? Because it just says what the fees are, but it doesn't tell us sort of the reasons we can turn down a renewal.
Well, see, that's why I think that we need people who are going to be able to assist us and not leave us this question. And, unfortunately, either move it to planning or, unfortunately, the Earthwork Committee, zero response from either of my emails to them. to ask them to do anything about this.
It could be just worded a little bit more in general rather than specifics, that we can have, a group that advises us, rather than saying it's got to be one of these and one of that and one of that. And then we can decide that, when it comes time.
But there's already been issues that have come up. I mean, there was stuff on Old Central Street that there was a question. There was another meeting that I was listening to way months ago that it was, it's this much, that you can import. Oh, no, it contradicts. It's over here. And they couldn't
I'm
even
just
come up
talking
with
about,
Which
it.
is-
I'm just
which is
talking
all the
about
reason I think we need to do
advisory
this.
board.
Right, because I think right now we have 2 bylaws that have contradictory statements in it that causes
We
that
do.
problem. And that by
It's
passing
very,
this,
very-
even if this is incomplete and has some problematic language in it, I think it is less likely to be contradictory than the 2 existing bylaws and 2 different bodies that approve those different things. And so even if this is imperfect, I think this is a significant step forward over what we have in place right now, which is causing a lot of problems in town and a lot of consternation with people, and has a board that is not overly active overseeing it.
Well,
Right, so
I will-
Margaret, what is
I
your
will think-
recommendation so we can move on with
My
this?
recommendation is to send the combined bylaw off to Amy Questle, have the board just sit on it. We could send it off to Amy Questle tomorrow, have her take another look at it.
I'm sure nothing's changed.
Personally, my goal here would be to try to simplify these things.
Yep.
Scott's absolutely right. You all know it. Either one of those bylaws is entirely complicated. And yes, it's hard to know which one applies. So let me just, if you want to just hold on this one to next
Okay.
week, I'll see if I can get a response from Amy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, she was the last one who touched it, but I don't know if anything has changed. Okay. All right, so we're on hold for article no number. Whoops, where'd you go? All right, so the Jake break.
Move we add the Jake break to the town agenda.
Yep.
As
Second.
written.
All right, Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right,
Traffic
Margaret, I'm
Safety
trying
Advisory
to,
Committee-
trying to giddy
Traffic
us up.
Safety Advisory Committee is meeting tomorrow. I'll ask them for a summary for that article.
Okay. All right, zoning bylaws.
Even though I have some questions on some of them, I believe if the zoning board would like to request them on the meeting, I have no reason to not put them on the agenda. And so all the articles that come from planning about zoning, I move that we put on the agenda.
Second.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right, so that zips us down to,
Annual town elections, I think.
yeah.
Oh, good.
See, Margaret, we did it for you. I'm zipping.
Thank you.
Hang on. Yep. There we go. Questions? Motion? Vote?
I don't know, do we really want to have a town election? No, I move we add the town election article to the warrant.
Is Monday the 24th the correct date? I'm
don't
gonna have to
think
double
so.
check.
No, the 24th is
No.
a Tuesday.
And
That
it's
was
too
last
late
year.
because,
Oh, I didn't change the date. That's why.
Yeah.
Look, I have to revise that one. That's last year.
it's
Yep.
Monday, May 9th, isn't it? Because the
Yep.
town meeting
Yep.
will be
It's
the
May 9th,
2nd.
2022.
Okay. All right, so Margaret, once you make that change, Scott, you motioned, right?
Yep,
Chris,
Second.
Stone Eye?
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye.
All right, we're done.
So,
Oh, we're done with this for now.
right,
Okay. All right. Okay, next up on the agenda.
only made me slightly dizzy that I scrolled at different rates than Peg for my version of that document.
Well, you know, I didn't want to give people motion sickness as I was.
No,
whizzing.
but the number of times I scrolled up or down on your screen, trying to
Oh,
go
I
up
know,
a
I
line
did.
or down a line, I'm like, wait a minute, no, that's not,
I
that's
know.
your version, not my version. Actually, it's the same document, we're both in it, but yes.
Okay, so the next one are ARPA updates. And Margaret, I know that you had sent out a message earlier today regarding pretty much all the paperwork that needs to be done before we can just say,
Oh.
you know, off you go, off you go, off you go. So,
See, now
Right.
I came away with the totally opposite version of that because I would like to make sure that people know they're going to get approval or likely to get approval by the time they put it out, because I don't want staff or volunteers spending thousands of hours getting together, I's and T's dotted and free bids and meeting all the federal legal requirements of things, only to have us say, oh, no, we're not ready yet. And so is there a way to do it, to do some, not maybe at this meeting, but some motion to say, we are generally in favor of this moving forward. We want you to go ahead and get details with the idea that if you can get good details and stay with about this dollar amount, we are likely to approve this to go forward on a second vote.
The key here is getting the details and making sure that they're vetted. I mean, right now, the way this process, and I'm certainly not correcting anything. I just hope that you're
Right.
okay with this shortened list. At least we've shortened it so that you can take these
Well,
top ideas.
for today, I think this is an okay list. I don't think we're abandoning things that are not on this list. This list won't spend, $1 million. At least I don't think this list will spend $1 million.
Yeah.
well, we don't have $1 million. We only have 380,000.
Today, we have only 380,000. We were
Correct.
expecting $1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
I-
cannot spend what you do not have.
We've not
Yeah,
spent, we've not spent anything. I'd like to see a penny flow at some point for critical projects in this town.
Mhm.
And so anything that
So
speeds
let's-
along getting
let's
critical projects down going.
Let's take the playground, for example. And now
Yes.
the playground is probably going to be a multifaceted project. The playground is going to need a true safety inspection and report. It's going to need ADA upgrades. It's going to need equipment upgrades. So it's going to be an entire construction component to that. Maybe the low-hanging fruit there that the board could support is get a certified safety inspector in there and get a report done. Come back so we know exactly what is needed at that playground so we could move on it. And I don't mean to just pull out one project, but I think we need to look at all the projects, well, most of the bigger projects this way anyway. It's going to be imperative that we have detailed project scopes and narratives and cost details, because June and I are going to be responsible for reporting all this stuff to the feds.
Right. And it all goes back to, I don't want someone spending all that time on a project that we ultimately will not support, because we have such limited time, and especially if volunteers are involved, it would be such a demoralizing project if someone spent a lot of time doing that for us to say, oh, we've changed our mind, no, we're not going to fund it.
If we look at it this way, the Capital Planning Committee has a bylaw, and they've got an established process where folks, departments, boards, and committees submit requests to the Capital Planning Committee. The Capital Planning puts them on the capital plan, and they might approve them for the next fiscal year, or they might send it down a couple of fiscal years. But there's a process in place so that the town can vet it. If we look at it that way and just kind of follow the vetting process, we could probably, if each of you supports these projects and there have been valid requests for these projects, then why not get them vetted? Why not go through a real vetting process so we can get the details that we need for our project?
I don't want bureaucracy to mean that when I sit here next year, that playground is still in the state it is in today. They've had enough of an inspection of that playground to know that it all needs to be ripped and replaced. Why can't we just approve at least the concept that they should start getting bids on it together? Because every day we wait on that playground is another day we're closer to having someone injure themselves with the horrible equipment that's there.
Is the playground, what was that on one of our lists here?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay. But
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's on Scott's list.
Well, and Julie had it on her list. I think I had it on mine, but I took it off because it was a dupe. But again, it's, taking the playground, no one has a number. Maybe it's 75,000, maybe it's this, maybe it's that.
Upgrading the entire playground is going to cost at least $250,000.
Right. But at the same time, I don't want to promise everybody on this list that they're going to get a fair shake of this, because you know what? You have to look at everything for the betterment of the town. And if it's not going to be for the betterment of the town, then you can't do it. Some things need to slide.
And I think I think the playground is a special off example of something that we shouldn't wait on. We did not wait to double the amount of hours of the Council of Aging until we had all the projects in place, until we figured out all the things we could possibly better. We identified this as a critical need in the town now and approved this pool of money to pay for extra hours of the Council of Aging. I think a dangerous playground that is roped off with plastic tape is the same level of criticalness that we should find a way to speed this along. We already know there's a 3-month wait from, even if we had the check today, and even if we had all the bids today, it's a 3 to 4 month wait to actually get the playground in place.
I think
why don't we start with a certified playground inspection, which we need no matter what? Why not start with that? Fred was actually contacting a person in Marlboro to get it done. We could get the report and then take it from there.
Yeah.
So we're approving some ARPA funds to pay for that study?
Well, it can come back to the board for approval. I don't know what the cost is yet. Fred's looking into it to see how much it's going to cost for the safety inspection and the report.
See, and that's just it. We have no definitive cost to be able to say, here's 20,000, here's 50, here's 100.
And so
I'm not in favor of.
Because I don't want Fred doing this and Julie spending 100 hours on this for us to say, no, it's not worth doing.
It's going to get done, Scott. It's just maybe not going to come from ARPA. It may come from another way.
It's not on the town meeting agenda, so it's not free cash or stabilization.
It's not.
It has not even come to the Capital Planning Committee yet as a proposed project. So I don't get why all the bureaucracy around a safety process. I mean, this is a safety problem in the town that should be addressed faster. And all I keep hearing is more barriers to getting it done.
I think it's been this way for a while now. I think someone just brought it to our attention.
Correct.
We need to figure out how to pay for it, whether it's this way or another way.
And again, it's the devil in the details, because all the reading that I was doing, you have to have summaries that are very specific. You just can't have something general. like this. Okay, they submitted a pre-application. Do you have the final paperwork that absolutely shows it at 75K? No. Do you have the paperwork that says it's 115? No.
And again, I have said that where is that middle ground? So Julie knows she is not wasting her time putting this together.
But this could be, you could say that about any of
Any
these.
of them. Yep.
I have said about it. I was waiting last week to approve 6 to 10 of these to tell
No.
people, here's a basic ballpark to get you going. When you have your 3 bids and you've done the paperwork, the money will be there for you to move forward.
No, you can't do a basic ballpark when this money needs to be reported on to the treasury. No,
Okay.
sorry.
I do it all the time at work. So
Well, I
I
suggest.
do a budget, I put together a ballpark. I have to, once it's approved, I then can spend all the time getting the 3 formal bids that are required and making sure it covers all the requirements of other pieces. And if the 3 formal bids come back and it's 3 times the cost, it means I can't do the project because I was only approved for this ballpark. And so is that too bad? You either come back for more or the project dies.
No, because there's not even any information in here on how to audit what's going on. I don't think Margaret and June have any information on how this all needs to be reported. So again, to me, I don't understand what the rush is to hurry up and spend this money.
So we should stop spending money on
Nothing
council
that's
aging. We
on
should cut the council of aging hours back now because we've already approved money. We have spent money in this project already. It's not like this is the first project to come forward. We have spent money in this pool already.
Mary
So
has
that-
her hand up.
Oh, only because there's 2 in the audience. Rich Hanks might have something to say about the playground, and Janet Lammy's hand was up before Richard. So whichever order you might want.
All right,
If-
Richard, please come up to the front, but keep your questions brief. It's already 9 o'clock and we have far more to go.
Hear me?
Yep.
Very brief. Scott, a few years before I left my former town, they did a new playground. I can reach out to them to get the particulars as to how they did it, an estimated cost of what it was, and I thought they got a grant. So if you don't mind, I will reach out to them and get a little bit particulars to try and help a little bit on this, and that's all I have to say.
That would be great. Thank you, Richard. All right. Janet, you want to come up to the front again? Please keep your comments very specific and very brief.
It was an accident. I did not mean to raise my hand.
All right. Back you go. All right.
We need a little humor to break it up here.
Absolutely.
But Eloise's hand is up, so.
All right. Come on up, Eloise.
Maybe as a capital planning committee member.
No, I was just gonna say, I think if you called Meyer and asked for some of their help, a check-off list or something, they would be there.
Yeah, we actually reached out to our risk manager first from Maya, and she's the one who provided us the list of certified playground safety inspectors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Eloise. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it would not be truthful to any of these committees to say, yep, expect money, because you can't say that. We only have X amount of dollars to spend, and I would love to see everybody get a small portion, and some people may have asked for $100,000 and they only may get 20. So I don't want to set false
Which is
expectations.
fine. I just want at some point to vote some project to move forward in this pool of money. Every time we go, we don't seem to have any ability to, we seem paralyzed by the list or something. We seem to have no ability to do any leadership of, here are things that are important to the town that we want to move forward on.
Can I had one thing on this list that I wanted to change that I had as a preference, or at least ask a question. Yeah, the sidewalks. So I know we talked about I heard about people in town wanting the sidewalks downtown to Carterville. I did not hear anybody asking about BMS to the town center. Did someone else? Did anyone else? Because I don't think I really said this was
Complete
the
Streets
preference.
prioritization plan that was done back, I think in 2017, includes those sidewalks as well as sidewalks on Pleasant. I think additional sidewalk on on South, if I'm not mistaken, but it includes these and many others.
Yeah, I mean, my concern about BMS to the town center, next time you drive down south, slow down when you start to hit where the tennis courts are and look at them.
I
They're not
did.
even, there's grates in the middle of them. Now, if you drive into Clinton, they're nice and high, grates are on the ground where they should be. They're nice and wide. I'm sure they're not ADA compliant, the ones in Berlin, so.
No. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done. But one of the
Right.
things in the vetting document was that, have you heard from people in the community about, and I did, about the ones
Yeah.
from downtown to Carterville, but I did not.
There was something, Margaret, help me remember.
That's on the list from PEG individually. It did not come from the community.
Right, but this
We
one,
had, okay, so this was brought up not only in the shared streets and spaces discussion, but also in the Village Center strategic plan. I know it's going to probably come up on CMRPC's Route 62 corridor study. I think we also talked about some of this when we applied for a shared streets and spaces grant in 2019. So this has come up a number of times in discussion.
and I think something too, because the principal or something did not apply for any information or any grants that we couldn't do anything with the sidewalk. So, yeah, Chris, it's come up.
I will tell you that the schools do not pick up any, I mean, they don't have any walkers. They pick up everybody. So that's why I wasn't sure about this particular one. I mean, you can leave my name on it, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I put BMS to the center of town just to give a landmark. You know, think about it, once all the courts and stuff get in use, then people are gonna be walking, so. All right. To me, I think we need more processes in place. It's not a stall tactic, but I don't feel comfortable going forth and handing out money without knowing what we're gonna do with it and how it's going to be taken care of and tracked. This is also more work on June and Amy besides what they're already doing, and Margaret already with all the other 525 RFQs that Margaret's trying to write for the town, so.
How about just a process for next meeting?
Could I just make a comment? I was wondering, could we just look at this maybe a little bit differently, where if we didn't have opera money currently available to us, which items would we actually bring to town meeting to either come out of our free cash or to raise taxes? We shouldn't be looking at ARPA funds as free money just available to do whatever. I would still think that we should have some sort of a plan where there's a lot of really good ideas that people came up with, but I think a lot of these also should be part of the capital plan to maybe implement these, but maybe not all at once. And some of them could be grant offset, but we may need seed money to help. So it's almost like looking at some of these are items that we're going to have to pay for as a need, not a want, in the future. And I think it would just be really helpful to be able to use this additional funding sources to help offset what the taxpayers would wind up having to pay. I mean, I don't know if that helps a little bit to look at some of these and break them down. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do things that are cultural or maybe make the town a little bit better for certain groups of people, but I mean, there's a lot of things that came in that I think could actually help offset or reduce the amount of costs in the future.
And that's what I was looking for, June, when I was looking through the list. I was looking for items that you would get grants for, like matching grants, or, you know, you had to do engineering in order to get a grant. Those are the things that I was looking at. That's why I don't know how my name got on the second sidewalk thing. Unless we can get a grant, or, you know, it will help us get a grant.
Mary, did you have your hand up or was it just a twitch?
Nope, it was, unless Janet Lammy's leaning on the raise hand button again. Janet has a question. She's been waiting for a while. Let's see.
Hey, Janet, keep it quick.
You're still muted.
Janet, you need to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, Jan, I'm gonna give you to the count of 5 and then we're moving on. All right, we're moving on. I don't know where she is. Up.
I wouldn't mind at a near meeting to also talk about the other end of the spectrum. I think there are things on the list of ideas that are both duplicative, are now already town meeting warrant articles, are clearly something we could refer to another committee and not have in the ARPA, and are not legal uses of ARPA dollars, to make the list as a whole shorter.
All right.
I also think we're still open to, even though the first round of ideas was by February 29th, I don't think because we have until fiscal year 20 or end of 24 to spend them, to allocate the money, end of 26 to spend the money, that other ideas that come in still can come in.
June, in regard to narratives, or Margaret, what specific items are you looking for? Because I don't want a story. It needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like you were writing for a grant. So what are you looking for in terms of narratives?
Well,
Give them the
what
capital
the,
request form.
yeah, it's
What was that,
pretty much
Margaret?
exactly,
Give them the
the
capital
capital
request
request.
form.
Okay.
but it's pretty much what you would try to do when you were requesting money for a grant. You need to give it a narrative as far as what you're doing, what your plans are, how it's going to affect the town as a whole, what it could help in assisting with. It's one of those things where if we do get audited for it, we can have a reasoning behind why we did what we did. So, and it
All right.
also does, I mean, we have to make sure we're still dotting all of our I's and crossing the T's, just because if something is off, we may have to give the money back. So it's better to do it at the beginning of time versus at the end 3 years from now, and we have no idea on, or maybe none of us will be here then. So
Reporting, I was on with the US Treasury on the webinar today for the reporting and monitoring, and the project narratives must note some key concepts. It must provide a sufficient level of detail. It must report on both obligations, i.e. contracts, and expenditures. It must identify the project status and all phases. So it must identify all phases of a project. It must explain the demographic distribution, how the community is benefiting from this project. And it's also going to have to, if it applies, explain or support civil rights compliance.
Wow. Well, there's my list.
So can I just make a request for the next meeting that we talk about what the process is going to be for choosing these items? And perhaps if we're going to meet with the other parties, that we have a date or something, some kind of
What if
process.
what if we did this? Let's just say that we randomly pick one. I don't know, pick anyone on the list, 1 to 13, don't care what it is. And we walk through what Margaret just suggested.
Well, that would be part of this process that I'm talking about.
Right, so.
So if they could outline a process.
Yep.
Then we can talk about that at the next meeting. And then
Who's the they? Who's the they, Chris?
I thought, well, either June or Margaret.
Okay, that's fine. Just
all right. Then
pronoun sometimes gets us in trouble.
All right. So then, June, if you could come back, and I know that we tried to get to this and outline exactly what it is that you need to do on your part to set these up for accounting purposes. We can review again the list of 6 or 7 items that Margaret just went over to go through this.
But what June needs to do to set up for accounting is going to be true for no matter what the project is. So that has no impact on the projects we choose.
That is correct, but still, June needs to give us a process. We need to know how much of a time suck this is going to be for her and Amy, and where this is going to fit into their already 80-hour-a-week job.
Oh, it's like Scott said, it's a ton of time going through each one of these items if we had to do that. And we know that not all of these items, we're not even going to be able to fund half of these items.
No.
So it's difficult right now, and that's why I was trying to figure a better way of just going through them and deciding which projects are a definite ARPA funding versus which ones are going to grants or could go on the capital plan, or, you know, how soon do we see some of these things happening? I mean, some of them, playground safety, that needs to be addressed right away. Do we have funds somewhere else to offset this? I don't honestly know that, because we have certain departments that can't come up with numbers, or the maintenance of some of these items are still a key too. So I think there's just a lot of things in general that need to be addressed before we can even start picking, other than a project that we're going to do needs all this information. But we need to figure out which projects should go forward for that. Would we ask the taxpayers to pay tax dollars to do some of these projects? I don't know what the answer would be.
Well, what
Would
about,
they turn them down?
wouldn't you be able to figure out a process of elimination? The ones that don't fit in to the ARPA funding, they're gone.
It's our leadership call, I think. I think as a select board, we are charged that I don't think it's appropriate to ask staff to figure out what the priorities for the town should be.
No, just a recommendations of the process, not do the work. Just a recommendation of the process.
You know, staff requests capital project, boards and committees request capital project, and they have to provide, you know, they have to provide details on the project. They're asked to provide written estimates on projects. And I don't see why this should be any different. I just actually heard from Fred. He said he is reaching out to the certified playground safety inspector who he was in touch with. He's reaching out to them tonight, and hopefully we'll get something back right away, and we could at least move on something like that.
And I would encourage anything that anyone is doing for the playground to also just keep Julie on board, so we're not sort of duplicating or tripling efforts out there, that since she's been sort of the lead in trying to help make this happen.
Yep, I've included her on my emails to Fred, so everybody, they're in the loop.
Yeah, that's good.
Is CPA funding something that might also work for the playground?
Next year.
They could fund something next year. In fact, what's interesting is that no capital request came forward for this. I know that this is relatively new information, but there's been no capital request over the past few years for this.
I know.
And the capital planning committee didn't even expend all of the available free cash this year for projects. They went through all their projects and, you know, and decided which ones to put on the capital request form, but they didn't expend all the free cash that they had available to them this year on capital projects. So that's unfortunate, but
Is the playground on the list of capital equipment that they're tracking?
it's not even, it's not, well, I don't know if it's on the entire capital list of the whole asset inventory, but it's
Right.
definitely not on this 5-year plan. Doesn't show up anywhere on it,
Right.
but it will.
I mean, they're still relatively new. I expect that we're going to find holes in it. And again, I
Yep.
was hoping that ARPA could fill when we discover little holes like this. I don't think it is, you know, the fault of people who love playgrounds that somehow, you know, it's fallen through the cracks and they're something that's
no.
15 years old.
This is a good educating opportunity all around for all the 90-something projects that were listed here. You know,
Right.
just remember that we already have a process in place to request things like this. So.
I mean, I think if there's more details that we want in some of these projects as a select board, and maybe with the recommendation of town administrators, is someone to, just because someone suggested a project doesn't mean they're the person who's going to be filling out all the paperwork. You know, we asked for information from citizens and some citizens said, here's a need I see in town. You know, that doesn't mean that citizen's responsible for getting 3 bids and running the project all the way through. And so some of these that we think are priorities, we might then start assigning to people to start filling that stuff out. I think like, for example, the roll-up housing for the highway facility, so we stop wasting electric utility money, you know, to ask, and doing this is not as a motion, but as an example, but like that we might assign that to the highway departments to fill out that capital planning form. And we just use the existing capital planning form, because there'll be some that we decide are not ARPA, but should still be handed over to the capital planning committee. Or the capital planning committee might look at and decide that they want to take it away from us.
That would be ideal. That would be ideal.
Because the other thing that didn't come up yet either is the radio issues that were suggested. And we did actually this past weekend have an issue with the radios going down. So there's a lot of little items I think that need to be addressed, and I don't know, some guidance as far as which direction we need to go with some of these.
Well, that's what I was looking for, just a little bit of guidance on how to get through this.
Well, I guess the big thing is I don't know what you as a board would be interested in. Do we want to use these funds for newer items? Do we want to use them for seed money for grants? Or do we want to use them to get caught up on repairs that need to be done around town? I mean,
Those
I think that-
parameters were laid out pretty well at the beginning of this process.
But I think the only thing that's on the list of things that we didn't contemplate on it was deferred maintenance. That is, a historic deficit somewhere in town, like the playground, like potentially sidewalks. And I thought there were a couple of, like the radios, and I thought there were a couple of those that fail in that I had not thought of when we came up with the guidelines that might still, for me at least, be something worthy of spending some money on.
All right, so can we agree, again, because it's 9:15, we still have multiple items to get through. Can we agree next week that maybe June, because it is maybe something, I don't like using the word, but I will, easier to do if we took the item for the highway barn and just kind of walked it through its process?
Does Fred already have a written estimate on that?
I believe he just received a second one. He was looking
Okay.
for quotes on it, and he just got a second one. I think he said it was like $11,000 versus the first one that was at 5,000. So
Okay, okay.
Okay. All right, so why don't we do that? Maybe that will give everybody some perspective on what's needed and how we can take some of those items and maybe reprioritize them as to the ones that we need to work on. Again, I just don't want to promise money that people may not get. And unfortunately, you're going to have to do the work. You put forward something, whether or not you get it. You want to work it, work it. If not, well, that's fine too. Okay.
I think we should also then at the meeting talk about things to remove from the agenda, remove from the list of 9.
Okay.
All right. All right, so the budget recommendations, June, you had mentioned that the only really 2 outstanding ones were the school, and I've already forgotten.
just both the school
right.
Tohoto and school Berlin Memorial. I
Chris,
think Chris had reached out to them, and I think they were going to take it back and relook at items, but I didn't see anything come through
Yeah.
as far as any new recommendations or requests.
Chris, did you get anything back from them? I know you said you were waiting to hear back from Bob and you had not as of last Thursday.
Nope, I have not heard back. I know that if they are thinking, he and the superintendent are thinking of cuts, they may not want to share them directly with us until they run it by the school committee. And I don't even know when their next meeting is.
All right, recommendations on what to do. Do we just pass it to finance?
Did FinCom pass anything last week?
They did not. They were actually waiting to see what the
What we
school could come
decided.
back with as far as a lower number
Mm.
before they took any votes.
Well, and that's what we could do also, if you'd like. That's one option.
The other thought was we could always just put a lower amount and then they would have to come back with.
Yeah. So in a recommended column on your budget document, you'd put the lower amount. Finance committee could present that as the lower amount, but you know, we're legally obligated to present the voted budget of the school committee. So we could add a recommended column and see what we could do with that.
Oh, that's
That's
always the
fine, yeah.
case. And again, select board is just recommending to FinCom. FinCom sets the final number that's in the recommended column.
Yeah.
I don't have the budgets in front of me, but I am fine. Maybe I found it. That rounding down, like I suggested last week, as a select board recommendation. So it's an even 100,000. I thought I cut 40,000, 40 to 50,000 out of each budget.
But Chris, didn't your email say that that there was another child for sped? That I don't know if that's going to impact it. I know that they were looking at a couple options, but again, I hate to cut the budget and realize that there's, a child or children in need that we have an obligation to pay for.
I think we give them a dollar amount. It's up to them how to spend it. That my guess is obligatory stuff comes first, but that we cannot continue to sustain a 5+% increase in school budgets year over year.
Right. I mean, I agree that 5% is hard to swallow. I do understand also that sped costs are mandatory. However, the regular ed and the enrichment that some kids need is not mandated. But, so I do feel badly for other kids and hope that they are having their needs met also.
Correct.
I mean, all we're doing is putting together a recommended number to FinCom. They can take our number, take a different number higher or lower, including all the way up to the Berlin Memorial. And no matter what is recommended, someone on the floor can always motion something lower, and they can motion up to the amount that the school board recommended, because the requested number is still going to be in the budget, and the rules allow someone to pass a motion up to the requested dollar amount.
So then, Scott, what are you suggesting for line 181 and 183?
I recommend in line 181, 3.6 million.
So cut out 40.
Yep. And then in line 183, 2.9 million.
Wait a minute now.
But I'm sorry for
Which is
Montero.
still
Let's go up one.
What did he say? I'm sorry.
There you go.
2.9 million for that one. Which are still more than the 2.5 that we asked them to stay by. So they were acknowledging there's an increase. But that still cuts $80,000 or a little over $80,000, 84,000 or so off of those, which is, again, not, I don't think punitive, but doable. It doesn't stop someone again on the floor for proposing a lower number or a higher number.
Now you do realize, I think this is still the case. If we're cutting 40,000 out of Tohonto's budget, then they also have to cut 2/3.
60,000 out of
Boylston.
Boylston.
Not 60. Would it be 60?
I think we've assumed a greater share this year, but
80.
they're still the majority.
Yeah, they're still the majority, so it is bigger.
I mean, so that's an awful lot of money to cut.
Yep.
That could be a couple of teachers or.
I don't have my number with me here, but I want to say, like, if you cut a total of 55,000, that would bring them down to 4.5%, I think, of an increase.
Well, the thing is too, is that if you're going to decrease teachers, then, playing devil's advocate, obviously the class size is going to go up. So once again, it's going to be, those kids that are on either end of the spectrum of really struggling or really getting it that are going to hurt, and they're just going to teach towards the middle with 10 more kids in class.
Nothing stops the parents and the school board to come to the town meeting and advocate for the importance of a 5.7% increase. We are not actually making the cut. We are making a recommendation to the body that's making the recommendation to the town.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, I know that we're looking at it from a fiscal responsibility, but, as a parent, again, with a child who, unfortunately did not go to the Berlin school system, but is a special need child. I look at the money that was spent, for him, on him, at the expense of other children who didn't need it. So I'm very much split on this item.
So I was gonna say, so pick a different number. I picked a number out of a hat at random, just to round things. That's my only basis for it, not based on looking at a detailed budget, because I don't want to micromanage the school. We couldn't look at the school budget and say, look, we're giving you 40,000 less because we hate this one particular item in the budget, because they just get this number. They can spend the money whatever they want. So pick a different number. I just want to get us to have a number that we can vote on and let this issue be done.
So June, what did you say was 4% if we did 50,000, 55?
If they were to cut out 55,000, that would bring it down to a total of 4.5
So
as
if you
an
did,
overall budget increase.
so instead of 3,600,000, what if we did 3,620,000? You're still cutting out 20,000 on one, and then on the bottom line, do 29,22. So you're still cutting out 22,000 there, so a little over 40. Does that help at all? And again, I understand it's a recommendation. FinCon could see this and they'd be like, yep, like spot on. They go back to the school and everyone gets up. I get it. I understand it, and I also understand it's not sustainable for the town, but I'm also looking at the education of the children.
I think your number is too much money, but I wouldn't vote against it because again, I think the number could vary on the floor. Anybody who thinks it should be higher or lower is allowed to make that argument.
So did you raise both numbers?
I did. I basically put 20,000 back in each. So Scott had it at 36,000. I put it at 36,20. Scott had it at 29. I have it at 29,20.
Okay, so it would still be a reduction of 60,000 at Tohoto.
No.
No.
Oh yeah,
Berlin and
60,000. When you count in Boylston, it would be a $60,000 reduction at Taunton.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, my suggestion is going to be that we wait unless there's some kind of a time crunch that we're under. Can we wait till next week?
We can wait to, you know what, Chris, if you
I
can go
want
back to,
I want to work with these people.
well, that's what I'm saying, and tell them that, or suggest to them that they come back. They've offered a few suggestions as to what they may look into, but they've dropped the ball a little bit on their end, and you've been good about keeping in touch with them. That tell them that you've got 2 select board members, one who wants to cut it a little bit more, one who wants to cut it, but come up a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
I think their lack of response.
We're going with a number.
Their lack of response wants me to cut it further. I thought I was holding my own on what I said last week. And so I don't know what 1 week's going to make a difference on them not responding to Chris. So Chris will send out some more emails and they still won't respond. And we still won't have a budget. At some point, we have to get this thing in the mail to the voters so they can start researching and acknowledging themselves.
Is there a time crunch? Is there a time crunch between now and Monday?
No, Finance Committee wanted to finalize things. I think it was this week.
You're right.
I think.
Well, yes, I believe this is the last Wednesday that they were going to meet unless they had someone come and argue for additional money.
Well, then Chris, go back to them, email them tonight or call them tomorrow and tell them, you know what, we're going with this as is. They want to come back and justify it. That's great. If not, it's being cut to help reduce it and get it closer to in line than what we've asked for.
If we don't hear from them, I'm going to be much harder on cutting it to 3.6 and 2.9.
I know.
Well, I mean,
I'm willing to
Great,
vote in
June, I
favor of the
suggest-
motion if it happened
Well,
today.
go ahead.
The numbers
It's all
that Greg
right.
Put together.
you could go ahead, make a motion. 2.9.
No, because if I did, it would be a bigger number.
Margaret, did you have a suggestion?
I forgot, sorry.
It's okay. I know it's late.
I know.
It's after
I know.
I
9.
know it's late. I'm
It's a little
sorry.
late
I'm
for
trying to rush
everybody.
through this.
Yeah, I think Finance Committee can go ahead and make a decision. We will wait. Hopefully, and I know Finance Committee has a couple more meetings left. I think they have this week and then they have the following week that they were going to finalize, right?
We can't hear you,
Okay.
June.
And sometimes June's
Yeah,
the
looking.
first.
Yes, sorry.
Nope,
Yeah, it
nope,
just
it's
came
March
from- sorry.
23rd, actually, deadline to finalize. Okay.
So that's this Wednesday.
Right, so if we don't make a recommendation, they'll make one without us, which is also a
Yep.
financer.
Well, that's all right too, isn't it?
I mean, it could be that we are Margaret, because I don't think I can write an email to it. It says that the select board was split. The one would like to wait longer, one would like a bigger cut, one would like a minor cut. And that's enough information for FinCom to decide what they would like to do.
I can do that. I can just, because that's kind of what I did last week and
I should note too that there's a push at the state to increase Chapter 70 funding. And that could also play into this significantly, so.
I believe that Bob was referring to being able to prepay some of the special ed costs, I believe.
Yeah.
So that would
And I
also
think-
possibly bring it
And I
back
think he was
down.
looking at some school choice as well.
Yep,
Great.
okay. All right,
And he was trying to talk with the superintendent about, they had added in an ELA, English Language Arts Coordinator, and an adjustment counselor for wellness, and those were additions. So it wouldn't be like cutting, like who's there at the school. It would just be cutting their wish list, so
Request.
to speak. Yeah.
But I think that was the only other wish thing that they had in there. Everything else I think was level, I think. And the rest of the increase was because of the enrollment.
Well, and
June, keep us posted on finance where you've got 1, 1, and 1 for information for them. All right,
now, Peg, can I
Um,
ask you something?
sure.
Is there anything on this that we could just wait till next week, the agenda?
Well, if the final finance meeting is this Wednesday.
No, I'm talking about our
I think-
agenda.
I think the rest of our agenda is actually relatively fast.
Oh,
All right,
the only thing that can we do is just appoint Shane Wheeler as field driver and then the rest can wait.
I'll change a local liquor license manager too.
All right, can we,
I mean, I think all 4 of those items are.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think you can do them all pretty quick.
Yep.
okay, ready?
Pick up
Do I have a
the
motion to appoint Shane Wheeler as field driver for a term May 31st, 2022?
I so move.
second,
Stone Eye.
And although we can spend more money, and I will move that we have April 26th at 6:30 PM as our next coffee talk with the idea.
All
that
right,
we're gonna
somebody
be talking
please
about
tell
warrant
Richard, I think I lied and I gave him the wrong date. Okay,
I'll tell them tomorrow.
thank you. Chris, is there a motion?
articles. I made a
second.
motion, is there a second?
what did you just say?
Confirm the
moved
date of
April
coffee talk,
26th
April
as the coffee
26th.
talk.
April,
Yeah,
wait a minute,
that's
Coffee
fine.
Talk, April 26th is actually a Tuesday.
Yep.
That's what I
Oh.
thought.
Oh,
Okay.
Tuesday.
Sorry, that's what it
April
says.
28th.
This is 21st,
You
so I
want that,
didn't lie.
you want that to be for the warrant articles, basically,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Yes.
And so I wanted on, I thought it was a Thursday and.
Which is the 21st,
April 21st.
Well, what about the 28th? No?
right before
I
town
would give more
vote.
stuff. I have no idea where my phone is. There it is.
28th is just a few days before.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think it has to be the 21st.
Yep.
All right,
All right, so I didn't lie to Richard. It is the 21st. We can change that. All right. So there was a motion, Chris, there a second for the 21st?
yes,
Okay, next up is change of liquor license manager, Marissa, I'm not even gonna try it, Homewood Suites.
I so moved we change the liquor license. I always think these are silly that we have to determine other people's hiring.
Okay.
second,
All right, and then the last one, subsidized housing inventory report, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, it was just to file the report. I so moved that we add those to the affordable housing inventory.
yes.
Chris? All right,
Second.
Stone Eye on all 4.
I would,
Yep.
and
So
I would like
Hawkins,
to
I and all.
recommend-
Sorry.
I just
go
want to
ahead.
recommend to have Peg come down and sign for the select board, anything that needs to be signed.
Yes,
Okay,
so I also, I say aye to all 4 of those and allowing Peg to sign anything that's necessary on those.
And I'll-
Chairman,
I'll second that one. Aye.
all right,
So
so I think somehow roundabout,
Those last 2 do not require an actual signature. So e-signature to the ABCC and DHCD is fine.
all right. Mary, just shoot me a note, let me know when you need me to come down, I'll whiz down, pop up.
Just the
All right.
letters that are waiting and June the warrant, right?
Yes,
No, the warrant is-
the warrant I think is all set, but Scott,
Yes.
if you would like to come down.
Yep, I'll stop there on my way to work tomorrow morning.
Yep, warrant is signed and it's just Scott's signature on the letters for Carl and Elaine.
Yep.
All right, board questions, comments, liaison, we'll skip that executive session, we don't have any, can I get a motion to go?
So moved.
Ooh, second,
All right, boom chakalaka, Stone out.
Hawkins, aye.
Keith, aye. What did you
All
say?
right, I'm so
What'd you
sorry we
say,
kept
Peg?
you up.
That's
What?
fine.
He
Good
looks a
night,
little
everybody.
tired.